still waiting. Where's he at? The corner? Chris friend.
I feel like always behind the scenes, I'm like, yeah, here, he's like, it's already done. I know he is.
Hold away.
You'll have a great night. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not here. Okay. Two more cards.
Hey, is he ready? All right, let's roll. Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting for the City of Covington, March 11th, 2025. This meeting is hereby called to order, and I have to say it is good to see so many of our citizens participating in the process. I would like a roll call, but before that, if anyone has any phones, would you please just look at it, make sure it's silent or off. We will now rise for a moment of silence, and I'd ask for everyone to join us after the roll call.
Yeah. Councilman Lewis,
Here.
Councilman Stanga,
Here.
Councilman Roberts.
Yes, here.
Councilman Inman,
Here.
Councilman Burrell,
Here.
Councilman Botsford,
Here.
Councilman Verrett.
Yeah. All right, let's everybody get up and let's have a brief moment of silence. And would Miss Alex Carter please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
All right, we will begin this evening. We have two appearers. I would like to begin with Ms. Tanya DiMaggio. She's going to discuss the St. Tammany Parish Library millage.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for letting us come and tell you a little bit about our millage election that is coming up. You know, it was almost 75 years ago that the parish librarian came before the mayor of Covington and the city council to talk about the library, what was called then the demonstration project, to start a public library in St. Tammany Parish. And the first library millage was passed in 1951. The library was started in June of 1950, and then the first millage was passed in 1951. The town agreed there should be a library. The first Covington branch was opened at 203 New Hampshire, and over the years the library moved to bigger spaces and different spaces until 1987, when the library we have today was opened on West 21st. So for 75 years, the library has been the cornerstone for lifelong learning, an archive of local history, a beacon for community gatherings. And over the decades, the library has grown in size, in branches, number of resources, materials, and services we provide to our patrons. Now, some may say, who uses the library? It's 2025. We all have the internet. We have computers in our pockets. Well, in 2024, system-wide, over 1 million items were checked out. And each of you should have a little half-sheet flyer that has some of these statistics. These are system-wide. And I'll put some of these out on the table if anyone wants to take one. So system-wide, we checked out over 1 million items. That includes 60% of those were physical items, books and DVDs. And about 40% were downloadable audiobooks or ebooks. So people do like reading ebooks, but for the most part, people in our parish still do want physical books. Covington branch checked out 124,956, so almost 125,000 physical items, and beating, we'll do a little competition here, beating Slidell for the highest of the branches by about 10,000 items. That might have been a first too also. Almost 12,000 people use computers at the Covington Library. That's 15% of the total parish computer usage. And what we've been noticing, especially at the Covington branch, more and more people are using our Wi-Fi than using the actual computer lab. So we had 26,000 uses of Wi-Fi inside the Covington Library. And we think that has to do with our new furniture and our renovation, because it's really now that new furniture and the new configuration is more conducive to studying with your own laptop or tablet. That's actually 30% of the system total. And 10,613 people used Wi-Fi outside of the library. Almost 80,000 people walked through the doors at the Covington branch last year. Covington loves its library. Even if you do have a computer at home and you have access to the internet, you know, sometimes your printer doesn't work and your child's report is due the next day. So you can go to the library and you can print that report. Some people still don't have access to the internet, even if they could afford to pay for it. And you know, the library, we offer so much more than books and computers, and I invite everyone to look at our website where we have this long list of all of the services that we provide that really is too long for me to go into right now. On March 29th, the voters will decide the future of the St. Tammany Parish Library. The voters will be asked to continue. It's called a continue. It's not a new tax and it's not a renewal. It's a continuation of the 15-year millage that supports 96% of the library's operational funding. It's what we've just been paying for the last 15 years. Really, we've been paying a library millage for the last 74 years. However, we are asking for 4.35 mils, which is a whole mil less than previously. We all paid 5.35 mils in 2024. We did roll back. We were paying 5.85 mils in 2023. We rolled back like the other parish agencies, but we're asking for 1 mil less, and that comes to be about $3 million a year that we're giving back to taxpayers. Why are we asking for less money? Over the last 10 years, we've been able to dedicate 1 mil to our capital projects. We have 12 physical branches throughout the parish, and most of those branches are about 40 years old, much like the Covington branch. And we've had to do a lot of work. We replaced the library on Pontchartrain Boulevard in Slidell, and we built a new Madisonville branch, which we did bond that out, and we have paid the bonds off of that. And that extra mill did pay for that bond. Those were replaced because both of those branches had severe damage or were destroyed during Katrina. But Covington also had a major renovation about 5 years ago. You may remember we had our grand opening like 3 weeks before we all closed down for COVID. That was fun. And then we just recently finished our outdoor renovation. We did a whole new drainage project.
No. That's a bit ridiculous.
Look, the trench wasn't that bad. I know we had the trench in front of the library in the summer, but it wasn't that bad.
I think you reached your 5 minutes.
I know. I still have more to say, though. Okay, so, we really are dedicated to serving the whole parish, and so we've refreshed our small branches. We've given the new carpet, new furniture, and Slidell is really due. We did some work about 10 years ago, but they really need a new roof. And that branch was built to expand. We have the money to do that. We've saved the money to do that. People are talking about our fund balance, but a big part of that is the money we have saved because we don't want to bond that out. We don't want to be in debt. We've saved the money. And also the Lacombe branch is a little metal building that was supposed to last 10 years, and now it's lasted almost 30 years. And during Francine, the roof was damaged. We need to replace that. We have the money to do that. 4.35 mils is enough to cover our operating funds. I only have a half page left. Again, the millage is 96% of our funding. The other portion is dependent on the millage. There's state revenue sharing, which makes up for the homestead exemptions, fines, and fees, which is really not that much. And by the way, we really just want our books back. So if you owe some fines or fees, please come back. We can probably work something out. We get grants. We get a few grants, but really the bulk of our funding is the millage. If the millage passes, the library will be fully funded for the next 15 years. Services will continue uninterrupted. Lacombe will be replaced. It's rusting away, literally. The man has to come out and bondo the library. Slidell will be expanded, get a new roof, and there will also be a system-wide technology upgrade that will allow for more efficient service, material security. If the millage fails, we will not receive any funding for the 2025 tax roll, which means we will not have funding for 2026 and for the first few months of 2027. We will take all of the money that that's in our fund balance and move it to cover the operational costs. Lacombe won't be replaced. Slidell will have a new roof, but no expansion, and there'll be no technology upgrade. We recently had an economic impact study done by Southeastern, and they found that for every dollar the taxpayers give to the library, they get $1.65 in return, and that's a pretty good investment. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We have an extensive information on our website. Like I said, there's some information on this flyer I'm going to put out there. We also have some bookmarks that will lead people to our website that I'm going to put out for the public. Does anybody have any questions?
Tanya, thank you so much. Council comments?
Every month I come in and basically laud the library for what it does for our community, especially our children. So I do appreciate that, and if you haven't had an opportunity, scope out the website and look at the services that are available. They are quite extensive.
Thank you. Thank you for sponsoring me to come here. And if you haven't been to the Covington branch, just a couple of weeks ago, we now have a musical garden in the back, which are these interactive musical instruments that children and adults can play with, and it's truly magical. I know Mayor Mark was there playing. I think Mr. Stengel was there. It's truly magical, and that's thanks to the Library Foundation and to our friends of the library. Thank you.
Does it play the Godfather theme?
Well, I'm sure you could probably
Curiosity.
figure that out, how to do it.
I would like to remind everyone, I asked them to turn their phones off, not mine.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next we have with us Ms. Alex Carter with Desire Line. This is and actually I'm pleasantly pleased that there's so many people to hear it, because this is a kind of a big deal for the city of Covington. The administration and the council are working together on a pretty big project. And so if you could tell us about it, that'd be great.
Thank you all so much. Like you said, my name is Alex Carter. I'm the CEO of Desire Line, and really excited to work with the city of Covington on this project. The slide deck it's going to look like I'm rushing through it. I just want to let everyone know that we're going to be presenting at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the BOA, on March 17th, where we're going to spend more time going through these. But knowing y'all have a lot of business to do tonight, we're going to kind of do a high-level presentation. So this looks like a lot, but ultimately what we want to do is just make sure everyone, especially y'all, the leadership, understands that we're working on this project. The Desire Line is this bigger team. Our primary contacts for this project are myself, Matt Wilson, and Tara Lambeth. The project itself is a code update, right? So keep in mind, this is coming from your comprehensive plan that was adopted back in April of 2021. So a lot of the recommendations in the comprehensive plan were to update the code and make it more clean and streamlined. And so this is really a next step of that larger planning process. And so what you're going to see is that we've started working, we were selected competitively, and the way that we're working on your code is really iterative, right? So we understand that it's really important to the city of Covington that we don't sort of like surprise you, right? with new code that the community doesn't maybe understand or know what's going on. And so we're at this point right now where we are doing regular staff meetings. We're working on some priority one phased amendments where we learn a lot about y'all's processes, and we just make sure that we kind of work out kinks before we do the full sale update in phase two. A lot of this is to support code administration and streamline just government functions. And a big focus of the project is community engagement. So we're really excited to get in front of y'all tonight with such a large crowd and talk about how this project is going to support preserving the city's community character and implement a lot of those elements of the comprehensive plan. Some of those immediate action and purpose needs that we're working on now are specific to building standards and updating standards related to fair housing. Absolutely, go ahead.
I just want to clarify that this is a project to review and update our development code.
That's right.
Right? Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes,
that.
at a very, thank you, Erin. Because I'm moving quickly, but I don't want to lose the meat of the matter. And so ultimately, what we're doing right now is we're working primarily with the steering committee. But this is just to start and kind of kickstart things. We don't like to go to the public with nothing. We like to have things in progress that we can really dig into and talk about at a detailed level. And so this really talks about how we're bringing in that local trusted knowledge. We've got professional expertise, and we're really working on drafts in a paced manner before anything goes to public comment, to planning and zoning or council. Even the meeting that we're having on March 17th is informational for discussion purposes only. At a high level, we do like to start these types of projects really just speaking to land development tools and decision-making bodies and how all these different components work together. To Erin's point, the land development code is one piece of a larger set of tools that we have to support, whether a theater can go there or whether a small retail store belongs in a specific location. Again, we're going to talk more about this on the 17th, but we also have a community meeting planned for March 30th. So there's going to be multiple opportunities to talk about this in more detail. Some principles that are guiding this project at a high level are really, the first one is to preserve y'all's character. Y'all are, for the most part, built out. So infill, looking at new proposals, any new subdivisions, any new annexations. And the idea is to protect property values, reduce nuisance activities, and promote really predictable and sustainable land use patterns. We do, make sure everything that we're doing is within the authority of state enabling laws. At our next meeting, we'll kind of go through this in more detail, but just to reiterate, we're working with your comprehensive plan. We're looking to update your subdivision regulations. They're just in need for an update to reflect best practices. We're working with your zoning map, which is fairly well maintained, right? So props to the city. It's not true for everywhere in Louisiana. And then the focus of this really is your land development code. These are the words behind the built environment. And here, the focus right now is on efficiency. And so while this is maintained, it's due for an update to really clarify, streamline, and simplify the code. This just speaks to different bodies that regulate those tools, and I'll just kind of click through it. Your Board of Adjustments, your Historic Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, and your City Council, and we'll be working with all of the boards in furtherance of this project. How they all interact together. Right now, we just want to make sure that y'all are aware that we have a draft outreach and engagement plan, because we know that's a really important core focus of this project, is just making sure people know what's going on, have ample opportunities to engage, and we have the space to incorporate their feedback. And so Matt has at the end of the table, and y'all have too, your outreach and engagement plan, which really speaks to these two phases of priority amendments to sort of clean up a couple items, and then the phase two, which is the larger land development code update. Just at a high level, this kind of breaks it up into those two phases approach. And keep in mind that as we work through the outreach and engagement plan, it's a live document. So we'll have a project website where we'll be able to access this. They'll be able to provide comments. It'll provide like project updates on a regular basis. So it's very accessible. It will be very accessible. We work in the region all the time. The other piece of this is really your fair housing amendments. The goal of these amendments is really just to make sure y'all's current code is in compliance with federal standards, and just like to protect you from lawsuits, really. At its base level, we do have the draft report and the proposed code are near complete, and I say that knowing that we need to collect feedback from the boards and the community on the 30th of April. And so we're excited about that. We've been incorporating feedback with the steering committee. There are some policy decisions that remain that we're going to be working through, and we're being very focused with that. We're also working on Chapter 18, these are your building regulations, with a focus on streamlining permitting processes and updating building standards to align with best practices. This also has a draft report and proposed code that's currently in development and under review. We're in the process of setting up an additional working group to discuss additional policy decisions, and we're incorporating that feedback, and we'll be talking more about this with the Board of Adjustments on the 17th, because they see a lot of variances and such, and we want to try to, if we can, reduce those applications. That's a main goal associated with those updates. What we have coming in the nearest future, right, is we're hoping to complete these draft phase one code amendments. We're going to talk about this at a more detailed level with planning and zoning and the public at the community meeting. We're going to launch the project website and initiate phase two. So we're already in the process right now of reviewing all your permitted uses, looking at your zoning map, looking at all your zoning districts, and looking at your subdivision regulations. And we've kind of pulled recommendations from the previous planning director and are really building a really nice network of what needs to be updated and what doesn't, and are looking forward to getting more feedback from the community and the working group. The community meeting will be April 30th. The QR code that's up here on this, there's also a cutout out by the door that you can just, it's a little quarter page. So if any of y'all are really, we want to encourage you to sign up for updates so that you can just kind of know what's coming down the path. Because the thing is the land development code affects your property, right? It affects how you submit permits and what new development may or may not be permitted. And so we just want to make it very, very clear early and throughout the process that we want to hear from y'all. We want to make sure everybody knows what's going on, and there really aren't any surprises. This is our high-level timeline. A lot of what we've done to date has been focused on getting the outreach and engagement plan together, meeting with the steering committee, setting up the phase 1 priorities, but now we're working on phase 2. So you can see blue is outreach, yellow is phase 1, and green is phase 2. So we've been busy. We don't like working in isolation, so we wanted to come visit y'all tonight, give you an update. I'm glad to see so many people in the audience, trying to keep it under, not 5, but close. So if y'all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Council comments? Let me just say this, Alex, you've been a joy to work with. This is what I call dry material, but it
very dry.
it is so well needed in our city. Anyone that is out there who's looked at our ordinances kind of say, well, it says this, but don't y'all do this? And we're going to clean that up. And it's just been tremendous. I'd encourage you to take the snapshot, attend the meetings. I think a lot of people here, and it's coincidental that you're here talking about it tonight.
Right.
But people want to be engaged, but they want to know what's going on. And I think this is a textbook example of on the ground level of it. So anyway, thank you.
Let's try not to break y'all's.
You sure you don't want to stick around?
Right. Matt's going to stick around.
Good.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thank
It's
you,
always
Alex.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to our consent calendar. We have regular meeting minutes, February 4th, 2024, and an introduction of item number 2024-03-02, an ordinance of the City of Covington to amend the 2025 operating and capital budget. I need a motion to accept the consent calendar.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Stanga,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Inman,
Yes.
Councilman Burrell,
Yes.
Councilman Botsford,
Yes.
Councilman Barrett,
Yes.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes.
Under our regular agenda, under unfinished business, items to be voted on. Public hearing and action on item number 2025-02-01, an ordinance of the City of Covington enlarging the boundaries of the city, describing the property to be annexed and added thereto as Parcel B, Section 38, Township 7 South, Range 11 East. This is in St. Tammany Parish, also, as we have said, in the City of Covington, and also classifies this property as zoning district ML, which is light industrial, and CR, which is regional commercial, under the zoning laws of the City of Covington. Let me first off say, since I'm sponsoring it, that I am largely not in favor of annexing any additional property in the City of Covington. But that is not because I don't want our boundaries to exceed. It is because our wastewater treatment system can simply not handle it. We're going to address that, and this council has taken actions to do it. But there are times when something comes up where the city still has to conduct its business. And we have with us Ms. Catherine.
Yes.
And if you could give us your full name, and let's talk about this.
Sure. Good evening. Catherine Meir of the Jones Fusel Law Firm. I'm here this evening to represent iBoss LLC, Pool Drive 1 LLC, and American Bank. They're who's making this request. The property is what we've identified as Parcel B. It's approximately 2.74 acres, currently behind American Bank and in front of the old pool lumber across from the post office. That property is currently owned by iBoss LLC, but they've engaged into a purchase agreement to sell Parcel B to Pool Drive 1 LLC, and then a small sliver, it's about 25 feet by 25 feet, to American Bank. And so, as you may know, American Bank is currently within the city limits. The intent is for American Bank to re-subdivide its existing parcel to incorporate this small strip. And for them to be able to do that, that small strip needs to be annexed into the city limits. Pool Drive 1 LLC also believed it would be prudent to annex the remainder of that Parcel B so that all of Parcel B would be coming into the city. And then we're also requesting that zoning classification, so that small strip that's going with American Bank would be requested to be CR, which is regional commercial. That's what the bank is currently zoned as. And then our request is for the remainder of Parcel B to be rezoned to ML, which is your light industrial manufacturing, which is actually consistent with its current zoning in the unincorporated area of St. Tammany Parish. Happy to address any questions you guys might have.
Council comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is one of the things, like Councilman Brett said, that it doesn't really, it's not a big impact on our sewer, water treatment and everything. So this is the type of projects that we like to annex in versus like a $400 or $500 resident apartment complex.
Of course.
That's not good for the city. So I think I'm in full support of this.
Rod, any position, comment? Any public comment? Seeing none and hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
I need a second.
Second.
I'd like a motion to adopt,
So move.
and I would like a second.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilman Roberts?
Yes.
Councilman Inman?
Yes.
Councilman Burrell?
Yes.
Councilman Botsford?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Lewis?
Yes.
Councilman Stanga?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, public hearing and action on item number 2025-02-02, an ordinance of the City of Covington authorizing the mayor to sell on behalf of the City of Covington a portion of the West 12th Avenue right-of-way. Councilman Inman.
Yes, the site that we're talking about is a convenience store. It used to be a time saver many, many years ago, for those who remember. And quite frankly, the area that we're talking about, this right-of-way we're looking to sell, is going to that convenience store to assist them in recovering the ability to actually have some gas pumps. When the state came through, they lost a portion of their right-of-way across the front. And if you've ever tried to get gas there, they have one pump. So you're going to be there for a while. Quite frankly, I've always thought that that property was theirs anyway. It's always been concrete. So this is basically allowing them to purchase some of that property in order to utilize a grant that they got to improve their circumstances. So they had a hardship. They filed for a grant through a convenience store. I guess the best way to say this is Union is DEQ. Well, so they were able to get that grant, and then they can utilize it after they purchase this property to improve their circumstances. So that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, that Mr. Inman has given an accurate outline, but that is correct. There are 60-plus-year-old tanks on site. DEQ has a program for participating gas stations that they contribute to a fund, and then the state awards grants to across the state to assist tank owners in replacing tanks that are in danger of degrading because of age. This particular site received a grant. They, in addition to the pump location, they need a little bit of area to put in the new tanks pursuant to the grant. And also of importance to the city is it's a 30-foot strip, but the city is retaining a servitude over the easterly 15 feet of that 30 feet for drainage and access. So they're buying 30 feet, but we're keeping 15 feet of it for our use.
All right. Any public comment? Any further council? You need to step up to the mic, please, and give your name and address.
Irvin Bro, 505 West 15th Avenue. My question is, what is the physical location across streets?
It's at the corner of 12th and Tyler.
If you're
That's
going
not-
down,
Is that the roundabout? It's not the roundabout right there? the
No,
gas-
no.
Gas station, that's right.
no.
Okay, okay.
This is the one that's close near a proposed parking garage.
Across the street.
Next to the veterinarian, pretty much, the mayor veterinarian? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you, no problem.
Any further public comment or question? Any further council comment? Seeing none, I would like a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
I need a second.
Second?
Motion to adopt, please.
So move.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Inman?
Yes.
Councilman Burrell?
Yes.
Councilman Botsford?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Lewis,
Yes.
Councilman Stango,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts.
Yes.
Public hearing and action on item number 2025-02-03, an ordinance of the City of Covington declaring surplus equipment owned by the City of Covington. Councilman Roberts.
Yes, thank you. So you'll see attached to the ordinance numerous items. Automobiles, monitors, computer equipment, just a lot of things that need to be rolled off of our books to surplus. These items have been declared not needed for public use, and they'll go to auction if they're auctionable items, to a public auction. So it really just what we normally do, need a motion to make sure that we can surplus these items off of our books.
And I'm glad that we can do it.
Yep.
Any public comment?
I just wanted to share, so the last time we did an auction but from the surplus list, we generated $47,000.
That's real money. All right, any further council comment? Hearing none and seeing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
And I need a second.
Second.
I need a motion to adopt,
So moved.
and I'd like a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Burrell,
Yes.
Councilman Botsford,
Yes.
Councilman Verret,
Yes.
Councilman Lewis,
Yes.
Councilman Stango,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts.
Yes.
Councilman Inman.
Yes.
I was so encouraged to get these cards, and I didn't have that many. And I like the idea that we're going to hear from a lot of different people, to be honest with you. So keep the cards coming. Under new business, items to be voted on, resolution number 2025-05, a resolution of the Covington City Council informing the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality of the actions regarding the sewage treatment facility. We have with us Mr. Curtis. Come on here and give these people some good news.
Feel honored. Good evening. I'm David Curtis with Curtis Environmental. We have been providing environmental consulting services for the city of Covington for many years. Every year I get the pleasure of standing up here and telling y'all how good the wastewater treatment plant is. And again, this year, we'll kind of go through it. I don't know if y'all have I guess y'all have the packets in front of you. Okay, so as a formality of the city's wastewater treatment plant discharge permit, the LPDES permit, they are required to complete what is called the MWPP audit. This is basically a review of 7 different categories that the city has to comply with as conditions of the LPDES permit. The very first one is for influent flow. That is the city's ability to handle what is being brought to it, which kind of goes directly into what you were talking about, Councilman Verret, that y'all are getting sometimes flow higher than what the city can treat, which you have multiple times in 2024 where the design capacity of the treatment plant is 2.5 million gallons and you exceeded that limit. The good news is that how good y'all's operators are, which kind of goes to your next one, the effluent quality. Y'all do an exceptional job of treating that wastewater. No violations in 2024. You didn't have any in 2023. They do an excellent job. Mayor Mark is committed to upgrading a lot of things within the city's wastewater treatment system, and I think it shows. Y'all are probably one of the best people that we do work for, and I can tell you we do a lot of work for a lot of people. So kudos to the operators, the staff that does everything. I mean, they take everything that y'all send them, they treat it, and they put it out safely into the environment. The next point, you did get some points for the age of the treatment plant, but those are going to go up every year just because that's conditional, that's how they score it. The next one, which again goes into infrastructure and growth, right, is overflows and bypasses. Y'all did have increased overflows in 2024. A lot of that is, when you look at where they occurred in the collection system, that's due to, y'all are doing projects, you have a lot of I&I, you have a lot of growth. You have an older infrastructure that needs to be updated. So you did have some of those. The good thing is that what is getting to the treatment plant is getting treated out of here, discharged, and everything is good. So you did have an increase there. But, I would urge y'all to continue to find ways to, look at fixing old pipes, old plate pipes that are in town, upgrade pump stations, looking at ways to upgrade force mains, things like that. which y'all have. I know, talking to all the operators and everybody, they do a very good job. So that's a good thing. Part 5 is the disposal of sludge. Y'all take everything, and this is actually something good for everybody to know here. All the biosolids that are removed from the treatment plant are processed at the treatment plant and brought to Kiln, Mississippi, where they are used for land application, where they actually take these biosolids, they grow agricultural corn that is sold to mills and used for feed for cattle and stuff like that. So that, you don't have any problems, y'all don't take any points for that because you have the ability to get rid of it. They do about a load, maybe a load and a half a month, depending on flow through the plant. But that is a very good thing. So the biosolids that you are having from the treatment plant are being reused and being, helping out the environment in other ways. 16, this is a points that the city has always received. It's 15 points, but these are 15 good points. Y'all are growing. You're a very good city. People want to come here. So you're going to get points because you have expansion, you have stuff coming here. Those are just, in my opinion, great points. That's what you want. The last part is part 7, that's the operator training. All of your operators are trained. They continue all their licenses. You have a Class 4 operator running your treatment plant, which is the highest you can have. Y'all do a great job. I mean, I can't say enough about the guys out in the field. I know they probably get unrecognized a lot just because nobody really thinks about what happens when they use the bathroom. My guy's the same exact way, but I would tell y'all to do whatever you can to reinvest back into water, wastewater, because that does allow you to continue to grow. So overall, your score did go up from last year. It was a 72.5. It went up to 90. But I think, as I talked to the mayor and Aaron, y'all are growing. You're doing the things to reinvest. So that score will come back down as y'all continue to improve the collection system, the treatment plant, all of that. So overall, there is a resolution that you have to vote for in the back of the MWPP that we actually have to provide to DEQ when they do inspections to show that everybody at this council has seen it, knows about it, knows what's going on, and you're voting on it as a council. So overall, I would just say continue to do what y'all are doing. As much as you can reinvest, please do. I think that's good.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. Any public comments? Well, let's give this man a hand for giving us some good stuff. Good info.
You need to give this,
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Okay.
We're going to do that. I just thought that this might be, with this audience, this might be a great opportunity to share with him as he alludes to the improvements that the administration works with the council on and some of the things that we have been doing and are in the process of doing. Very quickly, we just replaced the lift station, the sewer lift station at Bogaflaya Park, which was insufficient at a cost of $58,000. We just plastic lined most of the sewer lines in River Forest. Old clay pipe, it breaks, it cracks. We go in and put a hot molten plastic in. It's called SIP lining, cured in place at a cost of $1.75 million. The city has 63 lift stations across our town. Many of those have electric panels that during a rain event go underwater and obviously stop functioning. So we're under design right now. I think that's a $2.7 million grant that we have to raise all those electrical panels out of the flood stage. The sewer line under North Taylor Street was collapsing. Methane gas eats away at concrete, so that pipe was collapsing. We just did a pipe bursting project there and replaced all of it. That was a $492,000 project. Oak Alley Lift Station, we're under the way of doubling the size of that, $589,000. We're drafting the contract with an engineer for a new master plan for our wastewater treatment plant, which is what Councilman Barrett was alluding to, in order to anticipate. We have capacity at current rate of growth to last us through the year 2033. So for this council to be looking that far ahead at our wastewater treatment plan is very commendable. And we're also updating our wastewater capacity study. Ozone subdivision, also clay piping, about to replace that with the hot molten plastic. That is a $2.8 million federal grant, and that's on the cusp of an NTP, if it hasn't already been notice to proceed. We're right on about to start that work. So to David, not Danny, okay, to David. Okay, To David's point, we recognize how important sewer collection and wastewater treatment plan is, and this council and the administration have been aggressively. We sometimes joke about the fact that we're the subterranean infrastructure group. We do a lot of work that the residents don't always see, and we always try to do that work before we repave the roads, as opposed to repaving the road and then having to dig down and fix a sewer hole. So I thought this was just, those are my comments for the night.
I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Botsford,
Yes.
Councilman Barrett,
Yes.
Councilman Lewis,
Yes.
Councilman Stanga,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Inman,
Yes.
Councilman Burrell.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
Y'all have a good night.
Resolution number 2025-06, a resolution of the Covington City Council confirming the capital outlay and encumbrance rollovers from the 2024 budget to the 2025 budget. Councilman Roberts.
It's exactly what it said. You'll see that there's a page that I think that was added. Aaron, I think you probably added this to us. the
It's a correction.
corrected version, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is projects that's either been delayed or are still in process, but they didn't get finished in 2024, and we need to make sure they're approved to continue what they're doing in 2025.
May I clarify?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's two types of rollovers. There's either capital funding that was budgeted for capital projects that are ongoing or in the planning stages, and then there are requisitions or purchase orders that were issued in 2024 that have not been fully paid out. Those are operating. So we're rolling those over to 2025 to wrap those up this year.
Yep.
Any public comment? Any council comment? Seeing or hearing none, I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Barrett,
Yes.
Councilman Lewis,
Yes.
Councilman Stanga,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Inman,
Yes.
Councilman Burrell,
Yes.
Councilman Botsford.
Yes.
Moving on. Uh-oh. Well, my phone went off. I ain't gonna say nothing. Appeals. We have an appeal of the approval by the City of Covington Zoning Commission of case number 25-02-01 for a conditional use permit for the proposed St. Tammany Parish Hospital parking garage in Square 1110. I don't normally do this, but I want to say just a few comments before we begin, because I'm sure that people are going to ask the question of how are we going to do this. And number one, I'm kind of the big community guy, everybody knows that, and this council's been pretty big on wanting as much community input on as many projects as possible. And with that being said, I think it's kind of important to know why and how we're here. And so, just bear with me, it won't be very long, but I think it might kind of help some people to understand what we're actually doing here. The subject property, Square 1110 in the division of New Covington, is zoned IH, which is a medical services district. A hospital is a permitted use in IH zoning. A parking garage for a hospital is a conditional use in IH zoning, meaning that it requires additional review for approval. St. Tammany Parish Hospital applied for the conditional use approval for a parking garage. The Covington Zoning Commission has the authority to approve or deny conditional uses. In this matter, the Zoning Commission, after holding a public hearing, approved the conditional use of a parking garage at this site. The decision of the Zoning Commission is appealable to this City Council, and it has been so appealed. The matter before the City Council is whether to overturn the decision of the Zoning Commission approving the conditional use. That takes a 3/5 vote of the Covington City Council, or 5 votes, to overturn the decision of the Zoning Commission. But I think this is very important for tonight's hearing, and that's why I wanted to say it at the beginning. There was also an attempt to appeal the site plan approval, which was granted by the Zoning Commission. But this decision is not appealable to the City Council. There is also no power, no authority. In fact, it would be illegal for this City Council to remand the matter back to the Zoning Commission. Is that correct? And that's our city attorney. So I think a lot of people are going to speak, and what I wanted to address is the fact that I want to allow everyone to speak as much as possible within 2 to 5 minutes. We have a lot of people, but I'm not going to limit anyone's ability to come to speak before this council. And there has been, I guess for lack of a better term, some misinformation that has been out there. I've spoken to many of you. I've tried to respond to everything. And I just think at the end of the day, while there may be those that wish to play all sides on an issue, that pure leadership and good leadership is for community involvement, to you give us the most information we can have to do the best public good. And I shouldn't have to really say this at the beginning, but there has been so much misinformation that when I talk to everybody, they're like, well, I didn't know that. He didn't say that. So tonight we're going to be able to talk about it, and we're going to keep an open mind, and we're all going to work together to get this done. I have asked, because of some of the misinformation, I have asked for the hospital to go first in the sense of trying their best to do a slight proposal so that we can get this kicked off. And then I have a number of cards here, and we will go through them. I also have, and I want on the record, a tremendous amount of cards of those of you who have filled out that you were here in your position, but you do not wish to speak. And we will put that within the record. So I want you to know that that will be accounted for. So without further ado, if Mr. Jeff Shane, I believe that would be the one that's going to make the initial proposal, will come to the podium. And for everyone that comes up, if they can just state their name and their address, I think it helps us with the correct record. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Covington City Council. My name is Jeff Shane. I'm with the Jones Fussell Law Firm, and I have the pleasure of representing the St. Tammany Parish Hospital. I know all of us in the room appreciate you giving all of us time to express ourselves. As I have a little drops. And I appreciate you also giving us an indication of how you want to proceed with the matter this evening. So in that regard, I think it would be helpful to suggest that I'm going to try to give a synopsis of the project, also talk about some of the attributes of the project from our perspective. We have others here with us this evening that will be speaking as well, and providing you hopefully valued information as it relates to our studies and attempts to determine ways that we can improve existing conditions at St. Tammany Parish Hospital. With me this evening, I have our President and CEO, Joan Kaufman, our Chairman of the Board, John Evans, our Chief Operating Officer, Sharon Toops, and I have a good many of the 3,100 workforce that we refer to as colleagues at St. Tammany Parish Hospital that are with us this evening. They're not only here in support, but some of them will participate in providing what I think will be valued information to you that will justify the need for this exciting project. Our project consists of a 5-story, nearly 200,000 square foot parking garage with over 400 parking spaces, and again to be located in the northeasterly intersection of 11th Avenue and Tyler Street, just beyond the north tower of the existing St. Tammany Parish Hospital complex. The garage has 3 primary components. At the first level, facing Tyler Street, we will have an approximate 8,300 square foot medical office suite where the surgeons will be housed. The North Lake Surgical Associates are currently in the southeasterly part of that square in a building that's held doctors for many, many years. That building will be eliminated as a result of the construction of the garage, and that particular unit, if you will be relocated into the first level. The second primary component is on the deck of the 5th level of the garage, where we will have a helistop. Many of you are aware that we currently have a helistop in the southeasterly portion of our main campus parking lot area near 8th Avenue, and this will provide us an opportunity to relocate that helistop to an area that will provide efficiency, safety, and hopefully life-saving capability that right now we currently don't have because of the logistics. And third, a major component is the Sky Bridge connector that we will construct connecting the third level of the parking garage to the north tower of the hospital, much in the same way that we have a Sky Bridge now that spans across Tyler Street. That Sky Bridge will be, for the most part, the exclusive means by which all that use the garage will have access to the hospital. We will attempt to eliminate pedestrian traffic from that square crossing 11th Avenue onto the hospital campus with little exception. We know that providing an opportunity to have a helistop on the deck of the 5th floor will create safety for our helicopter pilots that come in, because they will be landing in the perch or at an elevated position as opposed to at ground level around vehicles and people and other obstacles that might be on the ground. We also know that by providing this preferred landing location for our helicopters, that we will have a more direct access. We'll have elevator doors that open, corridors that will be ready, and we'll be able to bring critical care patients immediately to radiology, emergency room, operating room, or whatever the need may be, for patients where every second mean a lot and might be the difference in saving a life. A couple of key facts about this project. President Barrett has already gone through the zoning matters of the square and the fact that the parking garage is a conditional use. That is what's required, the filing that we made before the zoning commission. I think it is important to note that after study by your staff, the staff report that was issued essentially indicated no deficiencies as it relates to meeting code, whether it was with regard to the site plan, the performance standard review, or the conditional use permit. I think it's also interesting to note that 3 weeks ago tonight, on February 18th, your zoning commission, after a 2-hour hearing with a very hearty debate, not only amongst those in the audience, but certainly amongst those on the commission at the dais, overwhelmingly approved the conditional use permit with only one dissenting vote. So before you this evening, as the president had said, we only have the conditional use permit appeal. And in that regard, I think I want to get right into the meat of what this case is all about. So maybe the biggest question of the evening is, why should a multi-component parking garage project be located at this particular location? As I stated at the zoning commission meeting, this idea did not start yesterday. In fact, it probably started 7 or 8 years ago, and as were other sites within and off campus considered as an ideal location to attempt to upgrade various services and facilities provided by the hospital that we felt didn't meet the standards that provided the highest levels of care. So in that regard, we did our own due diligence and determined in 2020 that Square 1110, which is where the garage is proposed to be constructed, was our preferred location, and it was designated as option 1 on our master plan. How did the hospital come to this conclusion? Was it just a simple motion and a second by the board that this is where we ought to put it? Ultimately, that is what authorized the activity or the action to move forward. But it only came after a long and thorough diagnostic process that included discussion, evaluations, debate, procurement of expert opinions from multiple disciplines. And who did those disciplines include? Site planners, critical care health experts, institutional architects, civil engineers, traffic engineer, acoustic studies, helicopter experts, land use experts, surveyors, and legal advisors. So a team of experts was assembled to study and recommend solutions for significant existing problems that the hospital wanted to upgrade. And those problems included inadequate and inconvenient parking with a need to provide more parking closer to the hospital. Number two, the need for safer parking by constructing a parking garage and an 11th Avenue sky bridge to connect and direct people and patients safely from the garage to the hospital. And third, the need for a safer, more efficient, and better life-saving telestop location. So the choice of this location did not happen by chance. This location happened after long and careful study by a talented and multidisciplined team. But in addition to the location issue, the team carefully studied the possibility of traffic problems as a result of the project being located at this particular location. What a hot corner, 11th Avenue in Tyler. We recognize that. That is the obvious extreme edge of our campus. So what did we do? Our experts studied the potential traffic impacts, even though LADOTD told us that we could proceed with the project without presenting to them a traffic study. As we all know, Tyler Street is a state highway, Louisiana Highway 21. They have the jurisdiction to control the movements within their right-of-way. And we assumed that we should start there to see what their requirements would be. They made no such requirements. What did we learn? Well, we learned from them and also from other independent study that a parking garage would not be a traffic generator. The hospital is the destination. The hospital is the destination, and the hospital is the traffic generator. The answer to the question of where do the people that come to the hospital go is then next answered, where is the best place to put the parking? And we determined that approximately the same number of cars come from the same directions today that will come to that same intersection after this parking garage is constructed. We have cars that come from the north, the west, and the east. All of you know the arteries through the city as they travel through your district. And they're not only going to the hospital, they're certainly going south toward I-12 and to all of the destinations that all of us know so well. So the focus then became, if in fact we could place a parking facility at this location, what were the things that we would need to do? The hospital board was not satisfied with the DOTD determination that a traffic study was not needed. It felt it had a duty to the patients, their families, the employees, the doctors, but maybe most importantly, the people that live in that neighborhood, the people of Covington, the people that travel through those corridors. We needed hard answers to know that if we built this multi-component parking garage at this location, that it would function and function well and not create undue concerns as it relates to safety, traffic, or quality of life. So based on those studies, it was determined after speaking with all of the experts that we had on our team that the location was in fact not only suitable, but a desired location. We also learned that it would not create safety risk for traffic or for pedestrians based on the features that I previously described with the sky bridge, et cetera, with this type of facility. We also learned, surprisingly to us, that no further mitigation would be needed at the intersection. There was no requirement for turn lanes or for widening of roads or anything else. And so those answers became the part, or a part, of the project that we planned and presented to the zoning commission. There's an interesting element to this parking garage project that I hope everyone understands, and that is that The garage is for the benefit of all that come to St. Tammany Parish Hospital. That includes our colleagues, certainly the physicians. It includes patients and or their families, and anyone. It will be a free parking garage, but the hospital has a plan as it relates to how we will populate the garage and who might be in a better position to use certain portions of the garage at certain times of the day. If we assume that the peak hours of traffic in those corridors, and I will focus on the intersection of 11th Avenue and Tyler, are between 7:15 and 8:30, and perhaps it's a little earlier or perhaps a little later, and perhaps in the afternoons it's from 4:15, 4:30 to 6 or 6:30, and again, everyone has their own sense of what peak is. We determined that because many of our colleagues work 12-hour, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shifts, that we can request and, quite frankly, assign them to park on certain levels of the garage, which will require them to arrive in the garage. If you're a 7 o'clock start at your station, you're going to have to be parked between 6:30 and 6:40. Not only do you need some time to get to the station, but there's transition depending on the type job you have and the person that you're relieving and what sort of communication and coordination might be necessary. That will give us a chance to put many cars in the garage, in our view, prior to peak. Likewise, in the evening, when those employees are leaving, they too have a transition when their shift ends at 7, and more likely will be getting to their cars at earliest at 7:15, 7:20, 7:30, depending on the circumstance and what's happened that day, wherever they are. Again, avoiding peak hour. Why is that explanation important? It's important because although we have all of the experts weighing in as to why the project works at this location, we continue to have control as to our plan of usage, how we're going to populate the garage. And if we determine, in fact, that some of the things we thought would happen are not happening, we'll have the ability to make adjustments. We don't envision the garage being used exclusively by 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. employees. We certainly want to have a significant portion of it available for patients, their families, the elderly, the disabled, all of the people that you would want to be able to use the facility. But the point is that there is a plan, and the plan does have flexibility. If there are traffic issues that are caused at the location, it is only, I think, normal and reasonable to determine, well, what type of mitigation efforts might be possible to offset that. And as we came out of the Zoning Commission hearing with, I think, a strong voice of approval, we heard carefully that night the people that live in that neighborhood who are constituents of you, but also are a part, many of them are a part of the St. Tammany Parish Hospital family. They use the hospital, their family uses it, they have friends that use it, and we heard real concerns about traffic flows at that intersection. We also heard real concerns from you as council persons, as I spoke with you individually. We heard it from throughout the community, not necessarily in great droves in other districts, but a recurring theme that perhaps there were further things that need to be considered. So with that having been said, approximately 10 days ago, the hospital made a decision, and we have made a legal commitment that I've expressed to you. I've expressed to some in the general public that I had been communicating with that wanted to know more about the project, that as a part of the approval this evening, if you see to approve this project, we will absolutely commit as a legal obligation to put in a right turn lane in westbound 11th Avenue. So that if you're coming westbound, say from St. Paul down 11th Avenue, within the 11th Avenue right-of-way, we will construct a right turn lane that will allow for a flowing turn into Tyler Street to go into a northerly direction. That right turn lane and the very likely needed modifications to the traffic light and perhaps the relocation of light standards, utilities, etc., has a probable cost valuation of about $500,000. We're going to undertake that. We're not asking the city to bear that. It's not a city project. It's a hospital project. But we think it's the right thing to do, and we think it provides another level of protection that this project can peacefully coexist with those that live in the area and those that travel through the area. We also have agreed to assist with the purchase and installation of signage subject to the supervision of the city at Polk Street and 11th on the west side of Tyler Street. So if you're coming from Minetry Drive and you're on 11th Avenue and you're approaching the intersection in question, Braswell Drugs to your right, we want to have signage at Polk Street that will clearly direct cars that want to go south toward I-12 to use Polk Street, take a right, and as they go down Polk Street, they'll have an opportunity to use 10th Avenue and or 8th Avenue with a traffic light, and it will take some of the pressure off of all of those vehicles going to the 11th Avenue Tyler Street intersection. Those are conditions that, Mr. President, we ask be placed into the record and be part of your consideration this evening. This essentially concludes my remarks for now, but before I close, I do hope that we may have some opportunity for rebuttal if there are issues brought up that we would be in a position to best address. And I'd like to say that the St. Tammany Health System is very proud to call the city of Covington its home. It's not only a geographic location, there's really no other place that we'd rather be. We don't desire to leave the city, not that that's the issue this evening. The point is we are a part of the city, and we embrace being a part of the city. But we also understand that we have a responsibility to all to provide the highest level of facilities and services to accommodate our mission. In that regard, we've admired the city of Covington as you have grown and prospered, and city government has facilitated measures to improve parking downtown, to improve traffic flows, and to ensure safety and quality of life. We ask you now to support our efforts to do the same. We would like to build this parking garage with these multiple components so that we can better facilitate our parking. We believe that we can adequately handle the traffic. We will have a vastly improved telestop location, and it will make our community hospital an even better facility for all of us in the community. So with that having been said, we request that with the conditions offered, as I read into the record, that you sustain the overwhelming approval by the Zoning Commission of the conditional use permit, remembering that this project has a solid foundation based on many years of study by many experts of many disciplines to make sure that this project is in the right location, providing the right services for all of the people. And again, we pledge to you that if need be, within reason, we will make the necessary adjustments if they're needed after the project has been built, and we hope that you see that to be what a good and true community and business partner would always do for the city of Covington. I thank you for the time, and I'll be glad to answer questions later in the evening if that's appropriate. At this time, I'd like to ask, I should ask Mr. President. We had discussed the possibility of Ms. Kaufman speaking at this
Just
time.
like to say a few words. It ties in now.
Good evening, council members. My name is Joan Kaufman, and I have been privileged over the last 7 years, nearly 7 years in July, to serve as President and CEO of St. Tammany Health System. As you all know, our principal operations reside in the city of Covington, and we are very grateful to be here working for you and caring for our patients in our community. Many of you may not know that I actually began my career at St. Tammany Parish Hospital at the time, just a few years ago, as a radiologic technologist. Now, as you know, it was back in the early 80s, and that was a 2-story facility, which we have now become very familiar with, a much larger footprint. We are now 4 stories, so we've doubled in size. We've expanded our footprint here in the Covington area with our principal facility, but we also have 24, 25 off-site locations so that we can reach the community where they are and take care of their needs through clinics, outpatient services, imaging facilities, and support facilities. What I am always impressed with is the culture of St. Tammany Health System, that true culture of caring. And what I can tell you is that when I was there in the early 80s, and then when I came back here in 2018, that culture of caring has still remained. We are very blessed to have that here in our community. Everyone is aware of the enormous growth St. Tammany Parish has sustained over time, and how services have grown to continue to meet the needs of the community. St. Tammany Health System is no exception. I was curious, however, so I pulled some numbers of just how fast our parish has grown and how St. Tammany Health System has kept up with that growth. In August of 2005, when Hurricane Katrina made landfall, our parish population was 217,000. As of 2023, we are at 200,075, which is about a 25% increase, or 57,000 individuals in our community. Likewise, in 2005, St. Tammany Health System had 1,500 colleagues. Today, as you heard from Mr. Shane, we are well over 3,100. As St. Tammany Health System, our philosophy is not if you build it, they will come, but rather we believe if our community needs it, we will do our very best to provide those services. The proposal before you is an example of us living that philosophy. We celebrated our 70th anniversary this past December, and we reflected upon how much we have grown with the community. We are a community hospital service district created by the people for the people. When our founding members handed over the keys to the hospital, they made a promise. St. Tammany Health System will never turn away anyone in need of care. The proposal before you will ensure that we are able to continue to deliver on that promise. When I look at how our parish has sustained a strong economy, which results in opportunities to attract the most qualified doctors, skilled workforce, and most importantly, to keep our health care local and our children close to home, I'm reminded of the broader benefits of health systems, and in particular, hospitals. Dr. James A. Richardson, Professor Emeritus of LSU, prepared an executive summary for the Louisiana Hospital Association in January of 2023. It was titled, "The Economic Role of Hospitals in Louisiana." In that executive summary, it stated, among many things, that hospitals serve the healthcare needs of our local communities first and foremost. Hospitals also provide a significant economic impact for their local community and drives the local economy because of the magnitude of the jobs that are directly created, indirect jobs created to serve their operations, and construction expenditures. Hospital employment represents 34% of healthcare employment in Louisiana, but accounts for 43% of wages and salaries for the healthcare industry. St. Tammany Health System, as I mentioned, has 3,100 colleagues. Our annual payroll, including benefits, is $282 million. We support 2,100 vendors each and every year. We have been studying the best location for this project for the nearly 7 years since I arrived, as St. Tammany Health System desperately needs both additional and safe parking. And the proposed garage with helistop will allow us to meet the needs of all of us here in the city of Covington. Thank you again for this opportunity. I do appreciate your time and your consideration, and certainly your support of this most important project. Any questions for me?
Christian? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to our cards, and Miss Barbara Olinger. Going once.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Olinger. I am a resident of Covington on West 16th Avenue in Harrison, and I have a question for the guests tonight. How many of you live in the city limits of Covington? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Timothy Hooper. All right. Well, we'll see if anyone has any questions, and thank you for coming. Mr. Matt Hardy.
Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, hospital representatives, thank you for the opportunity to appear tonight. What I'm here to talk about is what I believe are systemic failures in the process that has brought us to this point. The hospital failed to hold a public forum to disclose this project to the people and gain input, as they did in 2013 when they went through the last major expansion. John Evans was chairman of the board then. He's chairman of the board now. I don't know what's happened that suddenly the hospital has become insular and not willing to share their plans and expectations widely with the city of Covington. In 2013, the hospital failed to consider additional patient parking that would be necessary for the expansion that they undertook. I don't know why they didn't build a parking garage at that time on the south side of the hospital, where it would have been logical to do so at that point. From the information I've been provided with respect to the traffic plan, traffic study, it appears that their study was focused on the intersection of West 11th Avenue and Tyler Street. I believe that it failed miserably to consider the impact on the residential streets nearby, where vehicles will travel to try to escape the traffic jam that is likely to occur at peak hours when you have potentially 300, 75% of the capacity, 300 employees parking there at night, and believe me, you'd want to park there if you're on the night shift, trying to leave in the morning between 7 and 8 on top of the school traffic that already passes that intersection. It's very difficult for me to understand how the traffic study can really be considered accurate. If perhaps it was hired by an disinterested third party like LADOT, I might have more faith in it. For some unexplained reason, the hospital feels the need to rush this to an approval where there are clear and obvious concerns about one of the busiest intersections in our city, which during the morning shift change bear much of the traffic of 5 local schools that pass that direction. We do not begrudge St. Tammany Hospital pursuing its own interests. We merely recognize that its interests might not align in scope, timing, or procedure with the residents of Covington. Therefore, we ask this body, its zoning commission, and the St. Tammany Hospital to adhere to the proper procedure and precedent and extend to us the same courtesy for our interests. Counsel for the hospital has suggested amendments and adjustments to the proposal after the fact in response to citizens' criticisms. I was one of those citizens. It's further evidence to me that the matter should be returned to the zoning commission and revisions made to their approval after due consideration. Now, there were failures on the part of the city council and the zoning commission as far as I'm concerned, and if I seem too critical, forgive me, but this is, to me, something that's quite emotional. The city council and the zoning commission exist to serve the citizens and taxpayers of our community. Yet the Zoning Commission has put the interests of a non-personal, non-tax-paying entity with liquid assets in the hundreds of millions of dollars ahead of those of us who pay taxes in the city. Will you, our elected officials, do the same? When you first became aware of the project through individual meetings held with each of you, you failed to inform your constituency, a majority of whom strongly oppose this project as approved. And I will tell you, my wife and I spent about 6 hours going down the streets of 11th Avenue, President's Drive, 14th, 9th, 10th, gathered 50 signatures opposing this, 0 in favor of this project. Your constituency has a major problem with this, and you need to be talking to them. Neither the councilman nor the zoning commission asked the Department of Transportation to conduct an impartial study of the improvements necessary to mitigate the additional peak hour traffic which will result from this project. I believe that the reason that the Department of Transportation passed on this was because the hospital did not propose any curb cuts on Tyler Street. But the Department of Transportation has a significant interest in the feeder streets that come into Tyler Street all along that corridor. And they have told me that. I trust that their word to me was honest. The Zoning Commission must have recognized the scope of the project, yet failed to call for a work session or a public meeting of any type to inform the citizens in advance of the hearing, and frankly, we had very little notice of that hearing process. If we had had more notice, we in fact might have commissioned our own study. The citizens in attendance at the Zoning Commission hearing were not given the opportunity to ask questions, to challenge the representations made by the hospital during that meeting. The same consideration, though, was provided to the applicant to rebut. The members of the commission apparently did not understand, as I see it, the options available to them to condition the approval to address the issues raised at that meeting. The commission disregarded the impacts of this development on the nearby residents of Covington and on the city as a whole. Instead, frankly, they acted as a rubber stamp for the application. There is a process to deal with these circumstances. Any adjustments proposed by the applicant should first be considered by the commission, and if accepted, made a condition of the approval following due consideration. The gratuitous offer of adjustments outside of the established process is another reason that this matter should be referred back to the Zoning Commission for revisions. The city receives no income, gains no benefit beyond health care and employment of a few of its citizens. Most of the suppliers they mentioned are out of town, don't pay taxes, and don't have a status in the city of Covington. The city receives only a lot of traffic associated with the hospital. Yes, the hospital, I agree with Mr. Shane, the hospital is what attracts. Most of the parking that they're talking about moving is down on the other side of 8th Avenue near the river. They're moving that parking volume to the north side of the hospital facility. They are changing the traffic pattern in a way that disturbs many of us. The other thing the city loses, 2 pieces of property have been taken out of commerce, and you're being deprived of the sales tax revenue and the property tax revenue associated with those facilities. So don't think this comes to you without some cost. Should the city council fail to sustain the appeal, it will surrender whatever negotiating advantage that the Zoning Commission should have exercised in order to protect the interest of the citizens and the environment of Covington. By law, the duty owed the city council to any one citizen or group of citizens is superior to any obligations that it should have to a non-tax-paying governmental entity or corporation. The council should not let the hospital's failure to plan become the city's emergency. The council should send this decision back to the Zoning Commission with instructions to fulfill the responsibilities of their position and condition the approval consistent with the proper balance between the best interest of the citizens and the needs of the hospital. The City Council has everything to gain and nothing to lose by supporting the appeals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to we're trying to be lenient in the sense of letting people talk as much, and this is not directed at Matt Hardy or the hospital, but 2 to 5 minutes needs to kind of be the 2 to 5 minutes. And I think that everybody has been informed of that. So if you can, just kind of please stick to the 2 to 5 minutes. We're going to begin to have people raise their kind of hand 30 seconds in, so it'll be a... Well, that's why we put it on.
Yep. So we'll go 5 minutes. If you get to 30 seconds left, I'll raise my hand. You'll know that you have 30 seconds left and you can wrap up.
And I think that'll be helpful for you as well. Mr. Todd Richard.
Thank you, Councilman. My name is Todd Richard. I reside at 150 North New Hampshire Street here in Covington. And I'm here on behalf of the hospital. I'm not employed by the hospital. I'm not a consultant. I'm a business and civic leader who happens to spend a lot of time in philanthropy and focused on the betterment of our community. I do know one thing: when we have a great healthcare system, we have a high quality of life. There's no disagreement there. Coming back from the last meeting at the Planning and Zoning, I learned that really we don't have a disagreement over a need for parking, so I'm not going to spend any time there. The real disagreement was the location, you've heard it tonight, and traffic. Let's talk about the location. I'm not in a position, and I'm not sure how many people in this room are in a position to spend 7 years studying the proper location for this parking garage. I have to trust that the leadership of the hospital has done all their due diligence and come up with the best plan to get the best results for our health system. I wouldn't want to be the person to decide to move a helipad or a parking garage to the other side of the property and cause additional time and life safety issues. I'm assuming that the experts have done that, so I ask that you continue to support the request that's been made. The other issue was traffic. We had differences of opinion on traffic. The hospital conducted a traffic study. The people who actually live there feel differently. What I was most pleased to hear from Mr. Shane is that something we kind of discussed at the last meeting, that they were willing to put the infrastructure in, to put the turn lanes to alleviate some of the traffic problems. We know that the hospital is a hospital destination, but the real traffic in our community comes from a lot of school traffic in the morning and the evenings. We've got thousands of cars literally that come through this area. And when I see a developer, and for history's sake here, I spent 9 years or so on planning and zoning as a commissioner for St. Tammany Parish and was vice chair. So when a developer comes in, whether it's this project or any other project, and is willing to put infrastructure in place, we look very fondly on that. So once we heard that they were willing to put the turn lanes in to help alleviate a problem, which quite frankly may or may not even be their doing. Obviously, we've got a lot of traffic that comes through this city. We all know it. It's not exclusively a St. Tammany Parish Hospital problem. So with that said, I don't want to spend any more time adding to what was already been said this evening. I just ask that you support the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision. And look, these are my friends and neighbors. I appreciate their concerns. They're living it every day. I just know that the health system in St. Tammany, I'm proud of it. I support it. I donate to it. My son's a physician there who has privileges. We enjoy great health care in this community, and we need a parking garage. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Khaki Horn.
Hi, Khaki Hahn, 519 West 16th Avenue, and yes, Harrison does run right by my house. We, the citizens of Covington, are here tonight to ask you to send this project back to Planning and Zoning to do what should have been done before their meeting on February 18th, in which I was there. I have previously written to all of you, and I have spoken with several of you, so you're probably aware of my personal views and the fact that I live a couple short blocks from the project on Harrison. I have lived there in District D for 14 years, and my family has a business in District E that has been in its current location for the last 30 years. My entire family, many of you are here tonight, lives in the city limits of Covington. We have built our lives in this city. We are raising our families in this city. We vote, we go to church, we shop, we walk, we bike, we pay our taxes inside these city limits. Yes, this garage would have a direct impact on my daily life and on the lives of everyone in my neighborhood. But that is not the full reason why this project needs to go back. What about Covington Plan 2030? This was great timing. I had no idea that Desire Line existed or would be here. That document's available online. I've been through the whole thing. I remember attending workshops for that document, filling out surveys, submitting comments, and I know that this document was signed by many of you in 2021. Several of the projects on that plan have been implemented or completed, so it is a document, as we all learned tonight, that the city has been working from. It's available on their website. Words like walkability, character, bike paths, and design are used throughout the document, and neighborhoods. This project fits nowhere in the parameters and goals set by the document. Here are just a few examples from those action items. Action item 39, discourage or prohibit large commercial development from front-loading parking lots. Action item 40, revise the city's development regulations, zoning, etc., to better address fill on new developments, design guidelines for major corridors, hello Tyler, and parking. Parking lots, these are direct quotes, should be more regulated with regard to the location, visibility, screening to be more compatible with the vision for 2030. Action item 47, develop design standards for major corridors. The visual quality of the corridors influences the perception of the city and the quality of life for those living there. Covington, at its core, is highly regarded for its scale, architecture, and walkability. Major corridors can and should be designed to better reflect the quality of Covington. These action items were all on the short-term plan of 1 to 3 years. We're a little bit out from that, but it is not too late. Safety. The hospital has spoke often of safety at the P&Z meeting and tonight. Their safety. However, this project would still leave pedestrian crosswalks on both 8th Avenue and on 11th Avenue where the current ER parking lot will remain. Pedestrian crossings will not be eliminated or reduced by this project. If safety was paramount for their employees and visitors, the hospital could have built elevated crosswalks across 8th and 11th years ago. Neighborhood pedestrian safety also matters. The helipad. They have had a helipad since the year 2000. For 25 years, it has been roughly in the same area. Suddenly, there is an urgent need to move it across the street and require 2 elevators to get to the ER. If this was urgent, they again could have solved their problem in the last 25 years during any of their other expansions and renovations. Their latest renovation built a wing that is very far from the ICU, as you probably know if you have doctors and nurses who work there. Much farther than the ER and the helipad would be. Those of us here tonight, we chose Covington to build our lives in. We decided not to live outside the city limits and commute in for the restaurants or school or work. We revitalized our neighborhoods after the hurricanes. We put down roots. Many of my neighbors and family chose Covington for their retirement. Each of you chose Covington too. In fact, you chose it and love it so much that you chose to represent your district in addition to your already busy lives. That means representing the tax-paying people living here, not anyone else. My kids were both born at St. Tammany. That does not mean I owe them my neighborhood. If you don't think that this structure should pour out 2 blocks from your house, then it shouldn't from anyone's house in Covington. It may not belong on our neighborhood streets, not when there are other options. We chose Covington. Now is your chance to choose us. By voting to uphold our appeal here tonight, you will prove that you truly choose Covington too. Covington first.
Miss Carolyn Chassie.
Hi. I woke up with horrible sinus infection this morning, so please forgive my voice. Okay, please forgive my voice. My husband signed a card. Don't start yet, please. My husband signed a card. I timed my presentation, and it's 6 minutes and 44 seconds, and he filled out a card, and he would give me his 2 minutes, if that's okay. And that's not, okay?
Well, we don't want to start that because I have, and I'm not trying to be difficult, I have this many people that,
Then I'm gonna race.
you don't have to race. We'll be,
Almost.
you know.
Okay, here we go.
But I just don't want to give other
hear you.
time.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Carolyn Chassie. My husband is Mark Richards. We've lived in our house since 2014. We're located on South Monroe Street. Our property backs up to Simpson Creek. I moved to Covington in 1962 with my family. I have lived near St. Tammany Hospital for almost my entire life. I grew up on 13th. Covington isn't just my home. It's in my bones. Covington deserves excellence. This plan, this location is not it. Tonight, I'll focus on 3 elements of an appeal laid out in the Muni Code, Section 3705. The 3 topics are safety, traffic, and the comprehensive master plan. If I read my statements and realize that Khaki said it, I'm going to skip through it because it's to not repeat. Your role is to protect the best interests of Covington, its residents and taxpayers. The health system is not a Covingtonian. It does not have children. It does not have grandchildren. It doesn't breathe, smell, or hear. It doesn't vote. It doesn't pay taxes. And it most certainly doesn't sit in traffic. First, let's talk about the 2030 plan because it directly links to one of the challenges that I'm supposed to focus on for the appeal. The plan, which 4 of you participated in and signed off, is actually legally binding in Louisiana. Planning laws meant to inform zoning, land use, and infrastructure decisions. The plan demands transparency and community voice. Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the health system bypass this process, rushing to vote without work sessions or community focus groups, and therefore no real solutions. Neighbors and tax-paying voters were intentionally left out of this process. The Planning and Zoning Commission botched it. There were no work sessions and no chance for us to fully engage. They don't know what they don't know. They could have tabled it that night, but they didn't. And it was not only one no vote. There was an abstention because she had many questions that were not answered. Traffic, briefly, I zigzag all around Tyler to avoid Tyler. I bet you do too. I bet you've seen the traffic on the streets that connect to Tyler. The hospital's traffic study, they bought it, so it's skewed. And the city said, if DOT doesn't need one, we don't either. That is utter nonsense. This 24/7 wide-open garage demands a third-party traffic study. 10 to 14 blocks of surrounding chaos deserve real answers. Safety. I'm going to skip this because they said the helicopter expert is here. The traffic patterns now, the helicopter patterns now go over my house. Previously, it went over unimproved land and commercial area. So now it's going right after my house. And at Planning and Zoning, Jeff Shane kept saying, oh, this is safe, this is safer. We're going to do this, it's safer. Well, I don't think it's safer flying over a residential section versus the previous flight patterns. To the plan, 2030. Tyler is a gateway. Tyler is our front door from the south. It is supposed to be welcoming. Mr. Shane extolled the garage's design. The architectural design seamlessly furthers the brand of the hospital. Yet, the sleek, massive design clashes with Covington's unique charm. And by the way, it's no longer the hospital, as we once affectionately called it. It's now the St. Tammany Health System, a decentralized health system with facilities all over Western St. Tammany, chasing growth, profit margins, and market share. It often parlays its local community hospital, small-town goodwill persona. Soon you'll see it'll stretch all the way up Tyler to 21st, branding, all in its touches. Don't be fooled, because it will happen in a blink. So here we are. The health system's main campus is 15 acres. They have several viable options to solve their parking mess. Some may cost more than others, or could be more of a hassle. It's clear the health system has options, but we don't. We only have one Tyler. We only have one Southern Gateway. Have any of you walked down Tyler on the sidewalk where you will be up against this garage? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. There is one right there. I walked it. You are looking at this 5 stories and you have no idea how big it is. It's so out of place. Okay, so out of place in that neighborhood. I'm asking you to demand higher standards of parish and zoning. Vote yes for the appeal. Send it back to planning and zoning for a do-over. When you involve the community in solutions, they're always better. I've run hundreds of focus groups. Every time we came back from that focus group, we'd go, wow, what an idea. Why didn't we think of that? We have not been invited to participate either through planning and zoning, through work sessions, or the hospital. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, especially our trust and our support. We need your leadership tonight, and vote tonight. Let's get it right. One thing, everything that Mr. Shane said tonight about we've made a concession, we're willing to do that, that is out of the process. And if they made that concession to you behind closed doors, just think what they might do if we really honored this process. Don't be the council that rushed this mistake. All we're asking is for you to slow the roll. Thank you.
Mark, did you really want to follow that? Mr. Paul Stalls.
Evening, council, everyone in attendance, thanks for being here. I mumble sometimes, pardon me. So, Dr. Paul Stalls, I'm a cardiologist at St. Tammany. Work right there on South Harrison and cross 11th several times a day, making as safe as I can crossing there with all the traffic that's there now. In the past 5 years, we've had a fatality of a nurse, a shift change, and a near fatal accident at shift change of the second nurse. And I think a lot of it comes from expanded demand of the hospital, expanded employees, and where do we house their parking? Unfortunately, we're bound by law not to leave the current grounds we're on. I believe it was passed during the tenure of Mayor Keith Billery. There was an attempt, I think, at the time to discuss possibly relocating to the south side of I-12 over where the land is near Target, at least where there was more ability to expand outside of the surrounding neighborhood. And so the fact that we're bound by a drainage way and a river and then neighborhood on both sides, I think limits the options. And to say, you know, I read the NOLA article, the NOLA.com article about the meeting, and the use of quotes can be frustrating when used improperly. But it was studied for years, and many other options have been considered. I'm afraid the impact that people are concerned about is because of the nearness to their homes, and I don't blame them for that. My wife and I live on 23rd and Monroe, just here. We rode our golf cart over here with a nice slow roll. But the reality is that what this tiny hospital has turned into is not a tiny hospital. And it is for the parish, and it is on Highway 21 that I will tell you went away years ago when Blaine Stanga and our grandmother was sick at this hospital in the 4-bed ICU that was attached to the ER in the early 2000s. And I remember coming off that interstate exit. We used to never take 21. We'd always go 1077 to go to some family members' home on Bootlegger. And I remember when they built the first gas station, I said, that is it. This sweet little highway is gone, and this little town is over. Here it comes. It's going to encroach. And I think it was the Shell station on the right-hand side. But the point is that 21, I respectfully disagree. I don't think is the front door necessarily Covington. In fact, I think it's kind of become American sprawl with strip malls and nothing quite beautiful. I think Covington really starts just past the hospital once you start getting into the neighborhoods there. And I think it's maintained its charm. In fact, I think the ingress-egress of really one lane in, one lane out has kind of kept us insular. And I don't think that the parking garage is going to change that in any way. And specifically as it pertains to the safety, these are people that they come to work every day to work on your neighbors as they become ill. And I think it's very important to keep in mind what we're trying to protect, which is the employees and the people who come to this hospital for their care. When people say, why didn't they build it at this phase, or why didn't they put a walkway at this? Unfortunately, the finances don't allow things to happen when they might have been convenient. And I've been in a number of those meetings. As I said, years of planning have gone into this. And the finances just aren't always available when you have a multi-million-dollar expansion plan to then say, well, let's add another multi-million-dollar expansion plan just because we have the shot right now to do it. So I'm afraid it's just not as convenient as people wish it were. And sometimes we do wish it were that way, and I understand that. What this also has become is a small little community hospital that now has a helipad to get people to it. And we are now a regional referral center for not just St. Tammany Parish, for Washington Parish, South Central Mississippi. There are people that drive an hour and a half to come to our clinic and come to our hospital. There's people that throw their family members in the car in Hammond, Louisiana, skip past a couple of hospitals to get to our institution for care. And I'm not extolling my own virtues. I'm actually extolling the virtues of all of my companions that work so hard. Having grown up in New Orleans and trained in New Orleans, I remember thinking, I'm going to go to this little country hospital and I'm going to show these boys how to do some big city medicine. And I'll tell you, within a day, I was humbled and exposed to a very high level of medical care that is comparable to that to any hospital in the city of New Orleans. And that's me with family in New Orleans, who now all of my family comes to St. Tammany Parish Hospital for care. So they come from the South Shore to the North Shore, which is not how it was when we were growing up. And so what this health system, and I wouldn't besmirch that name, because really what that's saying is we're addressing the growth of the community around us and trying to provide the medical care that this community needs. And it is a health system that makes your quality of life and your quality of health care better than that of any parish in the state of Louisiana, including Orleans. And I'd put us up statistically and personally against any hospital in the city of New Orleans. So I think the due diligence has been done. I think safety is paramount. How it impacts the proximity of that neighborhood, I think has been vetted by this traffic study, and I don't think it's been purchased. But either way, appreciate your consideration for this growing health system that addresses the needs of this community and the parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Candace Watkins.
Mr. Moret, this is a hearing on an appeal. Mr. Shane spoke for 22 minutes. There are 2 more cards in your stack, one from my husband and one from Frank Caragliano, that they would like to yield me their time because my comments are 12 minutes long, and I don't want to leave out a single word. So I'd like your permission to not be interrupted and able to finish.
Well, council members, my position on it is that we're trying to let everybody speak as much as possible. And I had asked the hospital, because there had been so much misinformation about, for example, kick it back to P&Z, which would be illegal for this council to do.
No, that's
So, well, let me finish. You asked me a question. Hold the wedding. I don't personally have a problem if you would like to speak for 12 minutes, but I don't want to make that entire decision.
I am an appellant also.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand. So, we good with proceeding?
Thank you.
Then please proceed.
All right. My name is Candace Watkins. I live at 417 North Florida Street. I was mayor at the time that this code was adopted and the entire city was rezoned in 2010. I went on to become the Director of Planning and Community Development in St. Bernard Parish. Let me say that cities like Covington don't get this special accidentally. The character and community of this city took generations to cultivate by a lot of people who care about it and sound planning. This isn't easy to do. It is not fun to stand here tonight. It's important enough for me to do it, and let me remind you that leadership takes courage. I'm going to quote the code several times in my comments. Definitions: conditional use, a use that would become harmonious or compatible with neighboring uses through the application and maintenance of qualifying conditions, close quote. They are assumed to be incompatible. Quoting the code, these conditional uses require particular considerations as to their proper location, to adjacent established or intended uses, or to the planned growth of the community, close quote. During the February 18 zoning meeting, several violations of the zoning ordinance were committed. Violation 1, quote the code, conduct of the planning and zoning hearing. Duty of the city planner or other duly authorized representative. Presentation of information. The city planner or other duly authorized representative shall present information concerning pertinent application considerations and the standards set out in this ordinance, including any appeal process available to the applicant or to any opposition or any further automatic review by the city council, close quote. The city planner did not speak during the hearing. She did not discuss performance standards concerning the site plan, nor that the conditional use permit is dependent on the site plan for parking garages as per Part 5, special provisions. She did not state that parking garages, quote, shall be screened with ornamental grillwork, artwork, or similar architectural features which may ultimately be covered with mature plant material, close quote. This item was treated as a recommendation. It is not a recommendation or a condition. It is a requirement. She did not present the language that states, quote, parking structures shall be compatible with abutting structures, close quote. Even though the 5-story structure will be surrounded by single-story buildings on 3 sides. Staff did not review the appeal process, nor was the appeal process printed in the published public notices, which are required by the ordinance. Violation 2, quote, production of additional information upon a showing by any person made at any time during the hearing or on motion of the decision-making body, the applicant or the staff may be required to produce additional information with respect to the proposed application, close quote. Close quote. When asked direct questions by the commissioners, such as, with a conditional use permit, what can be changed? Staff remained silent. In the appeals section, under the conditional uses There are 11 examples of possible conditions that could have been given, none of which were provided to the commission. I'll offer a couple. Example 3, limit the height, size, or location of buildings, structures, and facilities. Possible condition could have been reduce the number of levels, make it 3 stories, or locate the building, the proposed garage to the current footprint between Tyler, 11th, 8th, and Harrison. Example number 5 in the code, increase the street width. That's an example of infrastructure paid for by private parties, which was also discussed that night, and obviously the hospital heard that. Example 11, assure that the degree of compatibility to the surrounding land use shall be maintained with respect to the particular use on the particular site and in consideration of other existing and potential uses within the general area in which the use is proposed to be located, close quote. Again, possible condition, relocate the structure to the current footprint. Violation 3, the application was incomplete and should not have been accepted by the city because it was lacking multiple required details, including, quote, plans for proposed screening, proposed signs and lighting including type, dimensions, and character, architectural drawings depicting side elevations for proposed building, design standards, architectural design. Parking garages shall be screened with ornamental grillwork, artwork, or similar architectural features, which may ultimately be covered, again, with mature plant material. No screening is shown on the elevations. And parking structures shall be compatible with abutting structures. Again, the parking garage will be surrounded by single-story buildings on 3 sides. When this site was rezoned in the rezoning of the entire city in 2010, it was fully developed, this square, with single-story buildings, and now those are being purchased and demolished. The applicant failed to meet these standards and provide the required details and elements. Violation 4, clearly the commission was confused about their duties and responsibilities and were therefore unable to make informed decisions, which makes their decisions arbitrary and capricious. The commission was working under the false impression that the case would make its way back, quoting Mr. Hudson, and it's got to come back to us with that, but we'll get to discuss it in a future meeting, to quote Mr. Boone. Those were 2 of the affirmative votes. They both thought this was coming back to them for whatever reason. Staff remained silent and failed to correct the commissioners and inform them that this will not be coming back. Once the conditional use permit and its companion site plan are approved, the commission is finished, unless you send it back to them. There are no further opportunities to place additional conditions or alterations to the site plan. The council doesn't have that authority. Mr. Hudson, prior to his motion to approve the site plan as submitted, Mr. Hudson stated, I'll make a motion, but I don't see how we can bullet list any kind of conditions. I think that would be opening Pandora's box if we're trying to do that. No, that would not be opening Pandora's box. It would be fulfilling your duties and responsibilities as public trustees. Each time the commission made statements indicating their misunderstanding of the code of procedure, staff remained silent. No one corrected them. No one provided additional information. In addition, Mr. Boone asked for instruction on how to craft a motion that would include a condition and was merely told that a motion to approve without a second was on the floor and someone could amend it. No suggestion of appropriate language was provided, so Mr. Boone's attempt to add a condition was thwarted. The city planner and the city attorney failed to represent the citizens of Covington. They failed to provide objective technical assistance to the commission, preventing them from making anything other than an arbitrary and capricious decision. The question is, will these issues survive scrutiny under judicial review? Because the only recourse the opposition has left if you deny our appeal is to file a petition in the district court for judicial review. No one wants to do that. No one wants to slow down progress to construct a parking garage of reasonable height and size and appropriately located at the hospital. But no reputable professional planner would recommend this structure at this location when other completely compatible and harmonious options are available. I'm asking you to grant the appeal, to send the case back to the Zoning Commission with a complete application and the full understanding of their duties and responsibilities, as well as their authority to consider conditions in the conditional use permit approval process, and strongly encourage a public works session to investigate which conditions would be necessary to make it harmonious or compatible with neighboring uses. And again, your vote tonight is up or down to sustain or deny the Zoning Commission's ruling, their approval. It's not to suddenly apply conditions tonight. They're the only ones who have the authority to do that. But I'm going to say they didn't understand what they were doing. They didn't have the full picture, and no one helped them to understand it better. So yes, we love the hospital. We love what they do for our community. But I'm fighting for the process and that this is done properly. Thank you.
Ms. Diana Mayer.
Good evening. My name is Diana Mayer, 1031 South Tyler. My husband and I own the animal hospital right across the street where the proposed parking garage is supposed to go. We have been here for 43 years, and we see the traffic increase. It's unbelievable from when we first opened up in 1981. And it's just getting worse and worse, especially Tyler and 11. Our clients that are trying to pull out of our parking lots cannot get out because the cars are coming, straight at them. As you traveling from Tyler, right on 11, and you take that right lane, take a right, we have seen so many accidents right in that corner. People do not understand that the lane goes from 2 lanes to 1. And if you're in the right lane, you have to make a right. Well, a lot of people don't see that, and they go straight. Just 2 months ago, I personally saw an elderly couple did the same thing, and they didn't realize it. They didn't want to take a right. They went straight. Well, they ended up hitting a light post. And you can probably check with St. Tammany, well, I don't know what they call it now, but St. Tammany Hospital, that's what it was called when we came here 40 years ago. It was St. Tammany Hospital, and I still call it St. Tammany Hospital. And you can check with our ER because the ambulance had to come and get this person to the emergency room. And the traffic is the same way day and night. We're there from 7 to 6 o'clock. And every time we hear a screech, we just, know that an accident is about to happen. This proposal of this garage is in the wrong place. It's not going to help anything but bring more emergency room catastrophes. Because it's just, and it's not only like they say, during school hours. That is really, that's worse. Those, you know, you have those boys from St. Paul driving, and, you know, sometimes they don't see the red light. They just keep going. So imagine 400 cars in that parking garage, and I'm not saying all 400 are going to leave, but the majority, there's a lot of people driving. The accidents are bound to happen, and it's going to be fatal. One of these is going to be fatal, because the amount of accidents that we see in that corner is way too many. And I hope that the council listens to all these people that have come here tonight and help us, because we don't want that. I believe that St. Tammany Hospital, they do need more parking, but that is the wrong place. It is not to be right in front, in the busiest intersection, I think, that we have here in St. Tammany. Thank you.
Renee Maggio. Bob, you speaking? Did you want to say something? All right. Mr. Dan Williams.
I am Dan Williams. I live at 35 Cypress Road in Covington. You, sir, are my councilman. I expect you to rise to the occasion and send this back. You've already heard yours. I don't need to repeat anything that's already been said. You all have it in your hands to do the right thing. Do it.
Mr. Andrew Bullock. Andrew? We'll hold it on the side, I suppose. Miss Enid Sean Poole.
Hello, guys. My name's Enid Sean Poole. I live at 73304 Highway 437 in Covington. And I have other properties right closer to downtown. One of the things that I want to touch on is what Khaki touched on earlier, and it's the neighborhood and the safety of the neighborhood. With children living back there, no sidewalks for them to walk in. They walk to their neighbors, they have to go in the street. And St. Tammany Hospital is a community hospital. It used to be a small community hospital, now it's a big community hospital. And we want to do, I'm sure the hospital wants to do, we want the hospital to do what is best for the community. But is doing the best for the community hurting people in the community? Because putting that parking lot in that location seems that it's going to lower the lifestyle of the people who live right around it and make it not as attractive to be there. And somebody said at the planning and zoning meeting that you don't want to, I'm going to paraphrase, you want what's best for the community and you don't want to hurt other people in the community or at the expense of other people, of individuals in the community. And that's what we all have to think about. People who've been here for a long time, they've lived there, and this parking garage in that location is going to infringe upon their lifestyle and possibly lower their property values. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Jan Robert?
Good evening. My name is Jan Robert. I live at 135 North New Hampshire Street in downtown Covington, and I've been in Covington for about 40 years. I love Covington because Covington is a city of neighborhoods, meaning that most of our traditional neighborhoods coexist with schools, the hospital, offices, parish government, and more. I'm in favor, and I feel like everybody here is in favor of, or at least has an understanding of the need for a parking lot for St. Tammany Parish Hospital. That's inevitable. And any of us that go in and out of the city every day see that. I support a solution that is in the best interest and the health of our citizens. I do understand many of the comments that have been made on both sides. I was not here at the first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I thank Candace and some of the other people that spoke so eloquently about the process or lack of process of public input, because I really appreciate this opportunity tonight to be here and for all of us to have input into this process. But I also agree with some of the points that were made by Mr. Shane and also by Dr. Stalls about the efficiencies that are needed for the health and safety of our citizens and patients and families coming into the hospital, and locating a helistop, I think they're calling it, rather than a helipad, which I thought it was called, in close proximity to the ER. I asked the hospital that question if that was really a requirement of a helistop to be that close, and it's not. But I also understand the efficiency of having one there and having the skywalk over 11th or wherever they decide to place it, and because that's in the direct interest of the families and people being transported by helicopter. Right now, patients that are transported are brought through open parking lots, and in this particular case, they would go directly, it's my understanding, directly into an elevator and brought down into the ER, and I think that really creates a beneficial situation, particularly when you're talking about those very, very important minutes that you have to address the needs of stroke victims and people suffering from heart attacks. I also do believe that parking lots do not generate traffic. I think that it's going to change the traffic patterns and the parking patterns, but I'm in favor of this parking lot and accommodating the needs of the employees at St. Tammany Parish Hospital and for us as residents and the people that they serve. But I'm in favor of it and would ask that the council consider and that St. Tammany Parish Hospital consider several conditions. I think that one of the conditions that's really important is I understand that they were asked to present a master plan at the first meeting, because I think it's really important as the hospital moves forward to understand more about what is their 1-year plan, their 3-year plan, their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan, what else is going to be put on that campus. Because right now we're taking the parking garage out of context, and it would be really nice to have a big picture, and I think it would benefit all of us as we make decisions, hopefully together, or if this goes back to planning and zoning, or whatever happens, if the community had an idea of what the future plans of the hospital might be. Will there be additional requests for variances on this project, and what might those requests be? I think Candace mentioned about landscape, trees, screening, and we are very concerned. I live in a neighborhood in Old Covington, and we're very, very concerned about the declining tree canopy and the decrease in trees. I'd like to make sure personally, because we've seen so much of a decrease in our tree canopy, that variances are not given for those types of things. So hopefully the hospital, and whatever their plan is and where this is located, will have to comply with that, and maybe even extra. But hopefully no variances will be given for this, for landscape or fewer trees or less screening. Mr. Shane also mentioned about signage, and that there might be signage on Polk Street. If the garage does go, okay, if it does go on Polk Street, I'd ask also that the hospital and the city council adhere to making sure that the hospital is sensitive to the neighborhood, because we don't want one of those big green and white DOTD looking signs in a neighborhood on Polk Street. I think that would be a real travesty, and we're talking about maintaining the integrity of our neighborhoods, which are important to all of us, and so I hope that that's given some consideration. I know that there will be an additional turn lane on 11th Street, but I would also hope that there would be sidewalks, because I walk all over the city also, like many of you do. I see many of you all out there. And I think that 11th Street in particular really doesn't have any sidewalks to accommodate pedestrians, and so, especially right there in that first block. So I know there's going to be a skywalk, but I hope that there's also some sidewalks to accommodate those needs. As you all draw any kind of conclusions tonight, again, I am in favor of a parking lot. It sounds like there are a lot of big decisions to be made here in terms of location. I don't live near 11th Street, and so I'm not saying this with great ease, like it doesn't matter to me, because it does matter to me that all of our citizens are happy, but it's important to me that our community hospital continues to do the job that it has set out to do, and I think that the community hospital and St. Timothy Parish Hospital is very, very important. Just like I said at the beginning, we've coexisted with them for many, many years. We have schools, hospitals, offices, parish government, a courthouse, a jail, all within the city limits, and we all live and work together, and I hope that we can find a way to coexist, and that the hospital gets something that gets a parking lot to accommodate the needs of not only their patients, but also their employees who need to be protected also as they go in and out of the hospital to work. So thank you for your consideration. I don't envy the decision you have to make tonight, but I hope you make the right one for all parties involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Conroy. Ms. Adrienne Ferguson.
My name is Adrienne Ferguson. I'm 1520 South Yankee. I'm Adrienne Ferguson, 1520 South Yankee. I have emailed each one of y'all my opinion, and I think there's been some very valid points brought up tonight. I think the evidence is clear. There was a process that was not followed. There was a community that was not involved. What we love about Covington is that we have come together to create a wonderful place to live, and that it takes people getting together and hashing things out and coming up with the best plan for everybody. So I'm asking you tonight to hold up this appeal, to send it back to planning and zoning, to think it through. If the hospital's a community hospital, let's involve the community. Thank you.
Mr. Hank Miltenberger.
Hank Miltenberger, 49 Durrell Street in Covington. And I just have a very brief couple of comments. I think that personally, I'm a very, very big fan of the hospital. I was on the foundation board for many years. It's an excellent hospital. We need it. I wanted to get a parking garage. I'm also recently moved within the city limits of Covington, and I know that what's important is to make a community. And we got something special here, but I got to tell you, we better not take it for granted, because when we lose it, it goes sideways. And one of the problems I see here is that there's a very legitimate issue relating a feeling of being left out for time to process and to have a conversation and back and forth. Because I think the people of this town know we need the hospital, we like it, we want it, but if you don't let that process carry out, there'll be embitterment, and it's already starting to feel combative. And you guys are here to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. People get heard, ideas come, and when you have discussions, you find middle ground and you find success long term. And I just wanted to urge you, I think we need some more discussion on this so that we can get a few other things possibly changed where everybody's happy. So thank you.
Mr. Luis Mato? Oh, I see you over there. How you doing, sir? I couldn't read your handwriting.
What?
Must be a doctor.
Sometimes. Not tonight. All right, Louis Mata, 614 West 11th. So, this is my clinic. The green dots you hear are the property tax plan areas. My area has nothing to do with any of the previous stuff. I'm worried about the issue of ambulance and gridlock. Ambulance coming from the interstate coming up. This is only 2 lanes coming in. You have an accident here, ambulance is going to get stuck. I'd like to know what contingency plans they have for that. Something happens, you have a bad outcome. What happens to the person? What happens to the city? Who's responsible? Hospital, I don't think is responsible, but the city may be. I'd also like to talk about the current location of the helipad is here. We propose putting the second garage here, but is there a way to put the helipad here, just make an office building on this portion, and still have the garage over there? Sky Bridge crosses to the hospital, helps eliminate that time. If you put the helipad here, over here, it was 900 feet. Over here, it's 500 feet. You put it here, you're down to 250 feet. So why not take the office building, put the garage here, take this office building tower, and put it on this part? Right now, this lane dead ends here, and you have to turn right. Y'all are proposing putting a right-hand turn lane here. I would like you to do is start a turn lane here to come onto 12. Don't extend it here. That would allow people who are turning into the garage to turn here, and this through traffic, it would decompress that and increase the flow of through traffic this way. Another one I've not heard is traffic come from the direction is 1 lane. People want to turn 12th Avenue into here. With this much traffic, how are they going to get through? There is a turn lane here that comes in, but if that turn lane fills, this traffic backs up there. So how is that going to be handled? The last part is a different aside. I already showed you the amounts of places where who's actually paying taxes to the Greens. I'm not sure about these two. Air rights in cities have a lot of value. I would like to see y'all have a lease arrangement with the hospital for the air rights to build that Sky Bridge to cover the loss of tax revenue due to the property taxes they're lost every time they build something. Lastly, they talked about a master plan. They took 3 to 4 parking lots and condensed it into one. What is the master plan for those other parking lots? Undoubtedly, they're going to be building more traffic. This is not a static traffic model. I want to know how much more traffic are we looking at? 3-story buildings, 4-story buildings? How many square feet? Where's that traffic going to be? What's the traffic pattern for that? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a quick 2-minute bathroom break, and I didn't get a water.
More minutes, 2 more minutes if you want to return to your seats.
Yeah.
Proceeding forward, we have a few more speakers. Miss Alice Riley.
Hi, my name is Alice Riley. I live at 1121 West 11th Avenue. My family has owned this piece of property from Fillmore and 11th since 1935. I've lived at this property since 1962. This area is a very growing area. People have very expensive homes now. This is a community. This is a neighborhood now. When I lived there, when I started living on 11th Avenue was shell. They went to gravel, now it's concrete. So that's where I've come from. St. Tammany Hospital has grown immensely. We love the hospital. But our neighborhood needs to be safe. It is not safe. People come down 8th Avenue because they don't want to take Tyler. Then they either go down Polk, where a lot of you know that a lot of people get in accidents right there at Polk and 11th, or 15th and Polk. So unless you can, change the traffic pattern in the neighborhood, this is a very unique neighborhood. It's part of St. Tammany Hospital neighborhood. I think that this is the wrong location for the garage. The garage should be on their main campus. It should not be where you're putting it. If you go down 11th Avenue from St. Paul's to Tyler, it takes 2 lights to get through that light. If you're lucky, that's right. If you go from Fillmore to Tyler, it's not that bad. You just have to watch people don't stop at stop signs. Choom. So that's a very big concern for me, is our neighborhoods. St. Tammany Hospital has known their growth for years. They knew how they should grow. So that they're showing us tonight, which they've never shown us a plan of how they're going to grow. That should be something that y'all should know, that this is our 1-year plan, our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan on our campus. So I don't think that this garage is going to do anything for anyone except for ruin the neighborhoods. And we, as the neighbors, we want to be, this is our family. This is where we have our family that grow up. St. Tammany Hospital is just part of that in there. So be aware that Covington is a neighborhood, a family town, and let's keep it that way. Let's have the hospital do its thing, but have it where their garage is on their main campus, not on Fillmore and South Tyler. That's the worst part. Now you're going to have the helicopter going over residential area. I don't know about you, but how would you, I already have the helicopter going over my house. So how would you like it if you lived in that neighborhood and you have this beautiful home and you have a helicopter that comes over constantly to go to the hospital. So look at our situation as neighbors to the hospital. It's not that we don't want the hospital to grow. We do want the hospital to grow. We want it to be the best in Louisiana. But there's other places that this garage can go. I ask that all of you deny and send it back to the zoning commission, because number one, in our area, we only found out 10 days before the zoning commission that this was happening. So please send it back. Let the community, let the hospital and neighbors of around the area get together with the hospital, and let's come up with a common ground, and let's everybody be happy, because if one person's happy and the other one's not, it's not going to give. So please send it back to zoning, and let's do the right thing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Carrie Milton.
Good evening. I am Carrie Milton, Chief Nursing Officer for St. Tammany Health System. I'm proud to say that I've been with St. Tammany Health System for 43 years now, and what I love most is our culture of caring for our patients, their family, and our colleagues. This past December, we celebrated our 70th anniversary, and we believe we have grown to meet the needs of the community, and I know we will continue to do so for another 70 years. The main campus emergency department is under my administration, so I can say firsthand that our colleagues come to work every day faced with many challenges that an ED brings. And in doing so, we lead by putting our patients first, always. Our ED is a busy place. We routinely have 150 patients per day at our ED main campus. Most patients arrive by their personal vehicle or ambulance. For those most critical patients that arrive and depart by helicopter, I can tell you that it may mean life or death. The current helistop is located in a busy area on our campus near our loading dock and is just under 1/4 of a mile from the emergency department. This path does not allow for a straight path and requires very tricky and time-consuming ground-level navigation to get to the emergency department. The distance from the proposed helistop to the ED is 556 feet, approximately half the distance of the current route, and desperately needed. A helistop closer to the ED will have the following benefits. First, faster access to critical care. We can ensure the most critically ill or injured patients receive immediate life-saving interventions, which improves their survival rates. Number 2, enhanced trauma and stroke response. Minutes matter in trauma, stroke, and cardiac emergencies. We can minimize delays in getting patients to the ED, operating room, or the cath lab for time-sensitive treatments. Number 3, operational efficiency and safety. We can decrease the burden on our EMS colleagues, streamline patient handoffs, and improve overall hospital workflow, enhancing both patient and provider safety. And the last thing, disaster and mass casualty, we hope not, but preparedness. We can improve the hospital's ability to respond to disasters, mass casualty, incidents, and regional emergencies by allowing faster deployment of resources and also receiving critical patients more efficiently. As the chief nurse, I have an honor and privilege to work with over 1,000 RNs, LPNs, and nursing assistants, making up the largest cohort of our 3,100 colleagues. I take leading nursing workforce seriously and work every day to make their experience at St. Tammany better. If I take care of our colleagues, they take better care of our community. I am sure everyone knows about the parking constraints. We've talked about it all night. What you may not be aware of is the fact that we've had 2 prior accidents at 8th and Harrison, tragically involving 2 of our own colleagues. After both incidents, we set out to take a holistic approach to the safety, and anyone who visits our main campus, we've made improvements to crosswalks, lighting, the first sky bridge across Tyler, and we have additional improvements on the way since the most recent accident in 2023. Even with these improvements, we can do more. I believe the proposed parking garage will provide another safe route to main campus for patients, their families, and our colleagues. When you think about our colleagues that work shifts, they arrive at work in the dark and they leave work in the dark. A parking garage with a sky bridge is the safest option for those colleagues who provide life-saving care to our patients. Thank you very much for your time this evening and your attention to this request, which I wholeheartedly support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph, and I'm assuming this is Leonard's? Or maybe not. 1118 West 11th Avenue. We have the remaining cards, which will be part of the record. Does the council wish to say any further comment or have any comment?
Yeah, I do. I got a couple of comments for the, is the helicopter expert still here? Yeah. Come. So just a couple of questions about the helicopter. How long does it take for a helicopter to come in and land? What's the time process of getting within sound distance, if you know that you probably studied that before?
Are you talking about from a scene response?
Not from a scene, but just to land. Once you're in the vicinity of the hospital, let's assume you could be a half mile away, you start getting the helicopter. What's the time frame of that helicopter getting from that spot to the pad itself?
About 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. And then,
depending on a lot of other conditions, could be 2 up to about 5 minutes.
okay. And do you have a number on the number of times the helicopters landed at the hospital per year?
I don't.
Okay. Jeff? Okay, thank you. That's it.
I have a question for you too. The proposed locations, obviously you're very familiar with it versus where it's at now. What do you see the pluses and minuses of those two different locations?
So the big thing is where it is right now, it's not as efficient. We can get in and out of it much quicker in efficiency and safer at the new location.
Okay. So the hazards that are at the current location are what? I've heard it's not a safe type as the being up on the 5th floor of the parking garage. What dictates that? Is it like FOD or is it just?
Well, pedestrians, vehicles, and then mainly up and away from obstacles and buildings. Give us a clear path from multiple angles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I do have one quick thing to say about the current landing zone. I've mentioned this to whomever I've spoken with, regardless of their position on the parking garage itself. When I was in the United States military, we did helo ops nonstop when we were at sea, and my take on it is the current landing zone is actually more dangerous than landing on a ship at sea. That's just my take. Now, I could be way wrong. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I can tell you, I was recently visiting someone in the ICU, and I watched the helicopters land back there. And all I can tell you is between the buildings that surround it and Simpsons Creek on the other side, the foreign objects and debris that can come up into the helicopter blades, these are not good things in my purview. I could be, like I said, not an expert, but I'm just using logic and common sense there. My take on it is that needs to be moved at some point simply for the sake of safety. I liken it into, you can get into a car with 4-ball tires and drive for a while. But at some point, there will be an issue. We've been very fortunate that we haven't had an issue, and I actually attribute that to the ability of the pilots involved. But where I am under the landing zone, or in the flight path, excuse me, let me correct that. And I have seen helicopters stop their approach and encircle on more than one occasion. You gave a time frame of 2 to 5 minutes. I've seen at least the 5 minutes, if not longer, on more than one occasion due to winds that were problematic. Where should this go? Well, that's a subject for debate. The hospital obviously feels like they have the spot. The residents feel like there could be a better location. I'm just going to make this very clear, and I want your opinion on it. Should it be at a different location than it currently is if that opportunity presents itself?
It'd be much better in a different location. You're absolutely right. To your point, it increases time at least double where it is now to where the proposed location is.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, but that's because it's a raised platform, right?
It's not only because it's raised, but it's away from some of the obstacles in the other areas. I mean, now currently we're landing near parking lots, trees, buildings, and right now there's times that we can't come to the hospital and either bring somebody or pick somebody up because of certain wind conditions. We have not had an incident. I mean, we do mitigate, certain things, and we will not come in there to mitigate those issues. So we place close attention to that.
Well, we can't do Q&A.
We got, unfortunately, as Candace reminded everyone, there's procedure. Happy to talk and maybe, flush this out. This, as you can tell, is difficult for a lot of people because I see, and John and I represent the city citywide, and I don't think, what I've heard today is a lot of concern about traffic. And you're right. I mean, we have some severe growth problems here. But I don't want anyone to take, to spin this. We may disagree, and that's okay. I said this before, and I've said it again. There needs to be community involvement. I think what's before us now, if I'm not mistaken, is that the hospital has offered conditions on the conditional use. Would that be correct? So I made some notes, and not to sound like a lawyer, but under section 3.705, I had written this before, specifically grants to the city council the power to consider, and I quote, necessary conditions to protect the best interests of the surrounding area and of the community as a whole. This section specifically talks about increased street width, signage, ease of access to major roadways. So as I understand what the additional conditions were, was to provide that ease of access, right turning lane westbound, additional appropriate signage, modification of the traffic signal, all at the hospital's expense. I would add that it should be in the absence thereof or non-performance that this should return to the Covington City Council. The way I read it, the statute 3.705 and 3.707, I guess that's subsection 10, that if the hospital's proposal is to add the conditions, that the first thing we have to do is vote, I suppose, on a motion to uphold the conditional use permit with the following conditions. So if that's the case, then there needs to be a motion to uphold the conditional use permit with those conditions. A yes vote would be, a yes vote would be to uphold the conditional use permit, and a no vote would be to not uphold the conditional use permit with the following conditions. So is there a motion to uphold the conditional use permit with the conditions? What, you want me to do it again?
Go through the conditional use. So you're saying that we can add a
Right
conditional
now,
use?
the way this is the way I appreciate it is that the matter before the city council is whether to overturn the decision of the zoning commission approving the conditional use. Any attempt to appeal the site plan approval is not appealable to the city council. So it takes a 3/5 vote of the Covington City Council or 5 votes to overturn the decision of the zoning commission. with the hospital giving conditions, I would think that this council has to, it can vote to uphold the conditional use permit with those conditions. If that vote was to fail, then there
yeah,
would be
I
a
think-
vote to deny it.
I think as the chair, you would entertain one of three motions. You could entertain a motion to overturn the grant of the conditional use permit, which would require 5 votes to pass. You could entertain a motion to approve the conditional use permit as approved by the zoning commission. That would take 4 votes to approve. Or there could be a motion to uphold the issuance of the conditional use permit with whatever conditions the mover attaches to it. That would take a 4 vote to pass.
So I'll entertain a motion from this council on one of the 3. I would say that I think with the conditions have to be voted on. That's my opinion as the council president, but I need a motion, one way or the other. I need a motion from the council. I don't, not the other way around.
That's one of the options. One of the options is to
I'll,
send it
I'll
back, to
I'll
prove it as
repeat
is,
this
or to.
Wait.
opinion. There is no provision in the Covington Code of Ordinances to remand a approval of a conditional use permit to the zoning commission. There are 2 options available to the city council. Either to overturn the grant of the conditional use permit by 5 or more votes, or to uphold the issuance of the conditional use permit with 4 or more votes. That is all that is before you. There is no remand.
And that's what I tried to say at the beginning, because there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation on that.
Wait, but there's a third option that says you can uphold the conditional use permit with additional conditions.
Or,
That's right.
when that motion is made, it could contain whatever conditions you wish to attach to the approval.
That's the motion in a second.
I don't think.
We're not allowed speakers on what we do. We have 3 possible motions that we can do.
Can you repeat the conditional, the conditions?
What are the
three
conditions
that you laid
additional
out?
to the conditional use?
As I wrote down, the conditions was to, listening to and incorporating the residents' concerns, to provide a right turn turning lane westbound, which would be a traffic turning lane, additional signage, which would be appropriate to alleviate concerns, along with modification of a traffic signal as necessary and as needed. This will be at the hospital's expense. I'm the one that added, in the absence of they don't perform it, then it's gonna come right back to this Covington City Council. I'm the one that said that. But, right, so at the end of the day, Jeff, are those the conditions that are being offered by the hospital?
We offered the condition of non-performance coming back to.
No, right.
To the council.
Well, then, we're not putting that.
With all due respect, I'm not sure that that's legally appropriate, but the other condition, yes. Hopefully that's what I said. I think maybe I ought to verbalize it again.
Well, I've asked him to speak, and so, a right turn, turning lane westbound, additional appropriate signage, modification of the traffic signal.
Well, if we're gonna do it, with all due respect, at Polk Street and 11th, if there is another place you need signage, I don't think we've discussed that tonight. I just wanna make sure that I understand the condition. I'm not repugnant to doing other signage, and then also, as I said, when we get the access permit from DOTD to do the turn lane into Tyler, if there's modifications that are needed to the traffic signal or the location of the traffic pole, the arm that holds the traffic, we understand that that's all part of our burden and our responsibility to provide that intersection as I have suggested we'd modify. So those would be the conditions that are acceptable to us.
And modifying the work schedule, I think, was mentioned as well, if it's found that it's needed, or
We will agree to adjust our population plan of the garage if we clearly have problems as a result of the traffic gets to and fro. That's for everyone's collective benefit.
Candace, with all due respect, I would like to listen to my city attorney, because all I'm doing is clarifying and trying to do the procedural correct thing to do. And we have three options. We have a motion to uphold the conditional use permit with those conditions, which would be a 4-3 vote, as I appreciate it. You can have a straight-up motion to deny the appeal, correct? And so I need a motion. To deny, 5-2. To overturn. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the plan as is with the the additional conditions as needed.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You need to itemize them. You've got to express them in your motion.
Like
You have
each
to expre-
condition?
Yes, you need to attach the conditions that you want in the motion.
Go through it, Mark.
To provide a right turn, turning lane westbound, comma,
Yep.
on 11th, modification of the traffic signal as necessary. Tyler and 11th.
Yeah,
You have, what do you, you got that one?
Yes.
And then we've got signage on Polk and
Eleven.
11th at the hospital's expense. Does that cover? That cover it?
Right, they are legally liable to these things if approved. Yep. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit with the conditions that a right turn lane is added on 11th, the modifications of the traffic light is put in place for Tyler and 11th, and signage is put on Polk and 11th. Do we have to have a date? Nope, just upon completion. Right.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes.
Councilman Stanga.
No.
Councilman Roberts.
Yes.
Councilman Inman.
No.
Councilman Burrell.
Yes.
Councilman Botsford.
Yes.
Councilman Verret.
Yes.
Isn't the only reason you were able to hear anything on
Could
this
you
because we
please hold
filed
your
appeals?
thoughts, please? We're not finished our meeting. Cyrus?
I'm not sure.
Who wrote it?
Roberts, yes. Five to 2, yes. All right, moving forward on the
Get 'em out of
agenda is comments and reports. Beginning with Councilman Lewis, District A. We still have a remaining meeting.
Thank you, thank you. I got one good news I want to share with the council and the community. I had a meeting with the CEO and president for the Boys and Girls Club, Ms. Angel Nelson. They have secured the location property, and they have plans for a new Boys and Girls Club, permanent location for the city of Covington. It will be housed in its old location off of North Columbia. We are planning on having a community meeting to get some input from the community. We're trying to plan that somewhere around the end of March. So I just think that's great news for the community.
District B.
District B, as the mayor pointed out, we're starting the sewer work in Ozone. They smoke tested, and project's moving forward very well. Other than that, I'd like to remind everybody of the St. Patrick's Day Parade that's coming up this weekend, and come on out and have a good time.
Sounds good to me. District C, Councilman Roberts.
Just two. I want to commend David for speaking on behalf of the faceless workers that work with the wastewater treatment plant. We take it for granted, and those guys do a tremendous job to keep us who we are. So I truly appreciate him recognizing us for that. And then March 29th, vote. Have your voice heard, March 29th.
District D, Jimmy Emner.
All right, I actually have a laundry list of things, and I know it's been a long meeting, but I do think these things need to be noted. First of all, the St. Tammany Master Gardener Group, they have a garden and plant sale March 28th, 29th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It will be at the St. Tammany Parish Fairgrounds. Friday, the festivities kick off with Mr. Dan Gill at 10 a.m. Saturday, Will Afton will close out. He'll be introducing Louisiana super plants, and that'll be at 1:45. If you need to reach out to gather more information, it's wafton@agcenter.lsu.edu. And if you want to go to the website, it's www.st, as in St. Tammany, mastergardener.org. $5 entry fee. Children and first responders are free. I do want to compliment our Public Works Department for the cleanup after the Mardi Gras parade. I had a resident who told me, look, after the parade, it looked like the sanitation department just went down Boston Street and dumped out all their trucks. But then they went the next morning to Buttercrisp, and it was all clean. So I can tell you that they were complimentary, and they asked me to reach out and state that. I would like to thank the citizens for stepping up. Trash on the parade route, with the exception of the aforementioned Boston Street, was a little lesser than it was, and I think that that's because people were picking up after themselves. My compliments in terms of behavior on the parade route, that is not everywhere. We do it right in Covington, and I appreciate that. So public safety on the whole was, well, something to be proud of. I want to give a shout out to David Nogarath. He was giving me updates on the parade route and what could be improved, and I would relay that to Public Works, and they would redirect me to whomever I had to be redirected to. And that feedback is important because, again, it allows us to build on something for the following year. We're not stopping at Mardi Gras this year. We will be back next year, so it would be nicer if we did it even better. There was also something that happened. There was a major line down, and it was a communications line, not a power line, but it was across the street on one of the side streets off of the parade route. And again, another citizen stepped up, and this time it was Mr. Blake Bushnell. He addressed this down line that was crossing the road. It wasn't with his particular company, but because it was a safety hazard, he was able to contact his company and get it situated until the company that was in charge of that line was able to address it. And again, not a power line, but it was a line providing services for internet access. That doesn't seem like a big deal until you have a home business. Or if you follow that line, if I'm not mistaken, it actually ends at the hospital. And, you know, our hospital does use high-tech equipment. and sometimes they even use this stuff called the internet. So, that was important. I do want to mention some other events that are coming up. On the 9th, Marty Paul's. 13th is the St. Patrick's Day get-together with Full Unplugged. The 15th is the Celtic Parade. 16th is Chef Soiree. Cross our fingers on that one. The 21st is Sunset at the Landing. We have a new stage down there, and hey, let's get that going. And the 22nd is the Shamrock Sprint. 27th, Rockin' on the Rails, which may be rocking a little bit more because Rockin' Doopsie will be there. So, you know, not to play on that pun, but hey, he should be entertaining in the very least. The 28th is the CBA Block Party. Yo, our Covington Business Association is amazing. They do a lot for the community. So, you know, let's get out and support their best intentions, which is helping our local small businesses. And on the 29th, we have the British Car Show, which, hey, it went off last year and was quite the success. Last but not least, I need to wish happy birthday to what I would consider to be a local hero. His name is Mr. Leroy James, and he's going to be 100 years old later this month. So that's impressive. As a member of the United States Navy, Mr. James guarded General Douglas MacArthur's children while in the Pacific Theater. So I know it sounds like he was a babysitter, but let me tell you his story getting across the Pacific, which is quite a big pond. He spent 90 days sailing by boat, and his daily meal plan consisted of sauerkraut and beans. That is a weight loss program if you'd like to try it. He did tell his beautiful Mrs. if she ever made sauerkraut and beans, that was grounds for divorce. I will say they're still happily married. So that didn't happen. He went into education, eventually becoming a principal. He's impacted our world, our country, and our community. And what I can say is from one Navy vet to another, anchors away, sir. Happy birthday. God bless. And enjoy life with you and your lovely wife. And that's what I have for District D.
District E.
In the interest of time, I'll be brief. Just one comment. The new stage is not quite ready yet at the Columbia Street Landing. It is imminent. So the concert will not be at a new stage, but we're looking forward to a great concert anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman at Large.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I'm going to kind of shorten this up because of time. The area of St. Tammany Parish still has a 14.1% food insecurity. So anybody in businesses or anybody that's listening out there, if you can do a food drive for your neighborhood, it'd be greatly appreciated. They're going to have a golf tournament coming up on Tuesday, May 13th in Beauchene. Their most needed items are canned chicken, instant potatoes, grits, applesauce, canned spinach, and canned carrots. And as always, the farmers markets are on Wednesdays over at the trailhead, on Saturdays behind us, and please shop local.
And Councilmember Brett, may I add one thing that I regretted to inform people of? There was a young lady who lived in Covington. Her name was Miss Karen Bowman. She was in charge of St. Vincent's de Paul. If you weren't familiar or aren't familiar with the organization, these are volunteers that would go into the community in houses that, let's just say, were impoverished. They would go in there and they would find out the needs and means of assistance that could be provided, and they would go through their church, their local church in order to provide that. She's no longer the president of the organization. She has since retired, and she is moving overseas to live with family in Switzerland. So she'll be practicing Ricola commercials for the future. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank her for all of her service for the community because she truly assisted those that were in need. So I wanted to add that. My apologies.
No, it's good stuff. Well, I think we all got to see how the sausage was made. And I say that because I like sausage. But the point that I'm trying to drive home is that it's healthy to have a conversation. And St. Tammany Parish Hospital, health system, whatever is going to be used as the moniker, doesn't change the fact that you are a valued community partner. And no one wants anything in their own backyard. And everyone is fed up with traffic. And that's for the elected officials to work on. But I can't tell you how many people weren't here that told me that there is a desperate need for a parking garage. And anyone, and I was somewhat surprised we didn't go there tonight, but to have a heliport which saves lives, kind of a big deal. You're doing a $22 million project, and you're working with the city, and in spite of one fellow who called me and said, well, you know, I can't believe you're talking to the hospital and you're talking to the residents at the same time, I think I'm on the right side of history. And I do appreciate every single person that gave an opinion, because that's what democracy is about. But I think this council in a 5-2 vote made the right choice, and time will tell, but I thank everyone for their participation. With that being said, Mayor?
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to give an update on the city infrastructure across the board. All good.
Out of order.
Well, coincidentally enough, our next city council meeting will be on April 1st. Thank you all for being here. All kidding aside, we're doing the people's business, and we're pleased to do it. We are adjourned.